Chapter 968. Dmo Xian's eyes darkened as he released her arm and swiftly retreated. He wasn't afraid that Yi Qing Luo would hurt him, but he wasn't willing to see Yi Qing Luo using the method of hurting herself to hurt him. Yi Qing Luo grinned and smiled without any warmth. His nimble figure followed, closely behind. The devouring flame fan at his fingertips stirred up a gust of wind. Her attack came straight at him once again. As Dmo Xian was dodging, he turned his head and saw the Mu brothers were still in deep sleep. He became more and more vigilant. He and Yi Qing Luo had created such a huge commotion, but the both of them were still in deep sleep. Looked like the matter of Yi Qing Luo falling into the control was premeditated. She seemed to have noticed his gaze. Yi Qing Luo's gaze followed closely and looked over. The corners of her lips curled into a strange arc as Yi Qing Luo leapt into the air and stretched her body. The red-clothed girl stood in front of the Mu brothers in the blink of an eye. Dmo Xian's brows were icy cold as he berated in a low voice, "Lil Luo, you want to kill the Mu brothers? Stop." At this moment, Dmo Xian was completely certain. The matter of Yi Qing Luo being possessed absolutely had something to do with the dark forces. Wasn't playing with people's emotions the most common trick of the dark forces? Just like the previous Long Yunjian, controlling Long Yunjian to assassinate Yi Qing Luo. If Yi Qing Luo died when Long Yunjian regained consciousness, he would definitely commit suicide to accompany her. Whereas if Yi Qing Luo killed Long Yunjian in order to survive, that was to kill his own brother with his own hands. But now, she controlled Yi Qing Luo to kill him and the Mu brothers. If Yi Qing Luo really hurt the Mu brothers, when she woke up, she would definitely be filled with guilt. In this life, he would never be able to walk out of this guilt. These methods were all meant to toy with one's heart and emotions in the palm of one's hand. Dmo Xian could not allow Yi Qing Luo to do something that she would regret for the rest of her life. His figure was as swift as lightning as he sped towards Yi Qing Luo's direction in an attempt to stop her. Yi Qing Luo had already slid out the glower flame fan. The dagger on the fan handle under the moonlight emitted a cold luster. Raising the dagger high, he expressionlessly plunged it down towards Mu Zifei. A soft sound rang out. Yi Qing Luo's raised dagger froze on the spot. His whole body suddenly stiffened. Dmo Xian's eyes lit up with delight as he stretched out his hand to hold her arm, which was holding onto the glower flame fan. "Lil Luo, are you?" But when his vision met with Yi Qing Luo's emotionless eyes, his joyful words were deflated back. She was still obsessed with lust. "That kid from the Imperial Palace. Why are you still in a daze? Quickly let little Luo sleep. She'll be fine when she wakes up." Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice spoke in a commanding tone. The sudden voice made Dmo Xian raise his eyebrows in vigilance as a strong, imposing manner spread out from his body. "You don't need to care about my identity. Make Luo girl fall asleep immediately. My strength is limited, and I can't suppress the profound yin qi in her body." The voice urged him again. She could hear the anxiety in his tone, and also heard the intimate way he called out to Yi Qing Luo. Dmo Xian looked at Yi Qing Luo, who was trembling all over, as though she was trying to struggle free from something. Gritting his teeth, he still raised his hand and hit the sleeping acupoint on Yi Qing Luo's body. Yi Qing Luo's body softened as she fell into his arms. Gazing at the young lady whose eyes were tightly shut, Dmo Xian's eyes deepened. He carried her up and walked directly into the carriage. Chapter 969. There was no response for a long time. Dmo Xian's deep black eyes flashed, his eyes were filled with ice, and his perception was raised to the maximum. The old voice sighed faintly and said, "Kid from the Imperial Palace, can't you just let this old man keep a secret?" Dmo Xian's pupils congealed as he noticed the direction of the sound. It was coming from Yi Qing Luo. His brows furrowed. You are. Lil Luo Ers, you can say that I am your master. Old Man Tsang knew very well that there was no way to hide it from DMO Xian and could only tell the truth. But that lass often calls me Old Man Tsang. DMO Xian was sharp and his gaze was like a torch, fixed on Yi Qing Luo's wrist. He held Yi Qing Luo's wrist as he lifted up his wide sleeves. Sure enough, he saw that the bracelet on her wrist was faintly flashing with red light. You are the artifact spirit of the Azure Dew bracelet? DMO Xian gently placed Yi Qing Luo's wrist into the thin blanket. The doubts in his heart had been answered. Old Song was slightly startled. You know about the Azure Dew bracelet? This exalted one naturally understands. DMO Xian replied apathetically. This lord is also aware of the situation of Lil Luo Er's body, and also knows that profound jade heart in her body, DMO Xian. Old Man Tsang's voice suddenly became serious, interrupting his words. He also immediately changed the way he addressed him. Old Man Tsang's voice was very heavy. You already knew everything. Why didn't you mention it to little girl Luo? His tone was interrogative. He was questioning DMO Xian from Yi Qing Luo's point of view. Yi Qing Luo's identity, as well as the profound jade heart in her body, it was all a secret that could not be made public. DMO Xian knew everything about her. Then, why did you get close to the Luo girl? Old Man Tsang's voice was filled with anger. In Old Man Tsang's heart, he had treated Yi Qing Luo as his own disciple, his own granddaughter. He had been observing Yi Qing Luo and DMO Xian's relationship along the way. He assumed that DMO Xian treated Yi Qing Luo sincerely. Because of this, he didn't intentionally conceal his identity today. But if DMO Xian had an ulterior motive for getting close to Yi Qing Luo, then there was no difference between him and that King of Darkness who tried to make a move on Yi Qing Luo. No, he should be even more terrifying than the King of Darkness. If everything that DMO Xian had done was because he had a motive, that was deceiving Yi Qing Luo's feelings. She could hear the heaviness in Old Man Tsang's tone, as well as his concern for Yi Qing Luo, as though he was an elder. DMO Xian's enmity towards him had gradually subsided. He leaned against the cushion behind him, bent his knees, and rested one hand on his knee in a lazy posture. Yes, I admit from the beginning, when I was interested in Lil Luo, it was indeed her body that was different from normal people that attracted me. He was calm and his tone was serious. His deep and quiet eyes were bright, without a trace of falsehood. So, you and Luo you are together only because she's different from normal people. Old Man Tsang's tone clearly revealed some anger. DMO Xian had yet to reply. His chest was grasped by a small hand. The girl nestled in the thin quilt gazed at his face with her hazy eyes. Her fair little hand was tightly gripping his clothes, although she had just woken up from her dreams. But her consciousness was still clear. You have an ulterior motive for being together with me? DMO Xian frowned and kept silent for a moment, but gave an irrelevant answer. Is it that old man who released your sleep acupoint? Chapter 970. Her hazy and sleepy eyes at this moment became clear and bright. DMO Xian drooped his eyes, curled his rosy lips coldly. His eyes seemed to be swirling with whirlpools, unable to see the deep meaning in it. What do you think? That little hand that was tugging at his clothes slowly slid down. The young lady's eyelashes drooped. Each and every one of her thick and curly eyelashes trembled slightly. He couldn't read her emotions. She seemed to be depressed, but also seemed emotionless. DMO Xian narrowed his eyes. This woman's trust in him, was this little? Seeing that she didn't speak for a long time, DMO Xian's brows revealed a trace of helplessness. In the end, he decided not to tease her anymore. Just as he was about to open his mouth to explain, the young lady's little head suddenly raised up. The black and white distinct eyes stared deeply at his peerless face. Her eyes revealed a trace of determination. The petite body directly crashed into Dmo Xian's arms. Soft arms, tightly wrapped around his neck. "Ah, Xian, it's not that I don't trust you, nor do I blame you," she murmured in his ear. When she just woke up from her coma, the first sentence she heard was Old Man Tsang questioning Dmo Xian, and Dmo Xian's answer made her brain not too clear for a moment. Yiqing Luo leaned her head into Dmo Xian's arms, deeply inhaling his familiar sandalwood scent. "From the beginning, if I hadn't aroused your interest, you wouldn't have saved me. From the beginning, if I didn't have what you wanted, you wouldn't have appeared in front of me again and again, circling around me. From the beginning, none of us knew that we would fall in love with each other." Yiqing Luo murmured softly. Her voice was filled with tenderness and honey, totally different from the usual arrogance. Dmo Xian opened his mouth to explain, but swallowed it back. Yiqing Luo propped herself up, looked up at him. "From the beginning, didn't I use the knife to threaten you? I am willing to get in touch with you. Isn't it also to borrow your strength, to make use of your ability?" The more she said, the calmer Yiqing Luo was. The smile on her lips gradually deepened. "From the beginning, none of us knew what would happen next. What's more, it's because I want to make use of you, because you are interested in me, isn't it?" A soft sigh came from above. Dmo Xian pinched her lower jaw, and his shimmering peach blossom eyes gazed deeply at her. "Lil Luo, you've already said everything. What do you want me to say?" "Then listen to me obediently, that'll do." Yiqing Luo raised her brows, not to be outdone, stretched out her hand and tugged his collar. The man's body instantly fell over. Yiqing Luo took the initiative to kiss his lips. When their lips met, Yiqing Luo's hand went on to wrap around his neck. Finally, she whispered, "Ah, Xian, I love you." Love Dmo Xian's action of biting her lips paused as his body froze. His mind was filled with the 3 words which Yiqing Luo had said earlier. She said she loved him. This was the first time Yiqing Luo had expressed her feelings so boldly. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with ecstasy and filled with gentleness. Yiqing Luo was still waiting for his reply. The next moment, her body was pushed onto the carriage, and the man's burning hot body covered hers. Dmo Xian's broad palm caressed Yiqing Luo's beautiful female body as a fierce kiss landed on her brow's face. Finally, he fiercely clamped her lips. His breathing became hotter. Chapter 971. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. A hurried and awkward cough suddenly rang out. Yiqing Luo, who was pushing Dmo Xian's chest, stiffened. Dmo Xian, who was lying on top of her body and continuously moving his hands up and down, paused. Following that, Yiqing Luo used all her strength and pushed Dmo Xian off her body. Yiqing Luo had not expected that her one sentence of confession would actually cause Dmo Xian to suddenly burst out in rage. She almost couldn't handle it. "Smelly old man." Dmo Xian's face was ashen as he gritted his teeth and spat out these 3 words. No man would be able to tolerate being disturbed at such a time. He even had the thought of destroying Old Man Tsang. Old Man Tsang coughed even more violently. This time it was real. He was frightened. Ever since he had specially unlocked Yiqing Luo's sleeping acupoint, allowing her to witness Dmo Xian's real face, he had shut off his sight and hearing, leaving the space for the couple. However, after waiting for a long time, the 2 of them did not seem to have any intention of calling out to him. Old Man Tsang's heart was filled with anxiety. He stealthily turned on his audio and video to see what was going on. Who knew? He was young and full of vigor. He was still in the carriage, and there were 2 people sleeping outside. The 2 of them had deep feelings for each other. He should be thankful that he had activated his hearing and hearing early enough to stop it. You 2 are so lovey-dovey. You can be as mushy as you want. But looking at the current situation, DMO Xian, don't tell me you don't want to find out what's going on with Lass Luo? If it wasn't for the fact that Yi Qing Luo's body had mysteriously appeared profound Yin Qi, which was simply too unexpected, Old Man Tsang wouldn't have disturbed them at this timing. This concerned Yi Qing Luo's health. Old Man Tsang couldn't wait any longer. Mentioning this point, DMO Xian's sunken face gradually turned grave as his eyes sunk. Right. What exactly is going on? Lass, Old Man Tsang asked Yi Qing Luo, when did you come into contact with the dark forces? Why did I sense the mysterious Yin Qi in your body just now? Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes in confusion. Me? Mysterious Yin Qi? You don't remember? DMO Xian held Yi Qing Luo's little hand. Yi Qing Luo was at a loss. He did not understand the meaning behind Old Man Tsang and DMO Xian's words. Could it be that she had forgotten something? DMO Xian did not intend to hide it from her. This matter must be made known to Yi Qing Luo. Only by letting Yi Qing Luo be clear of her current physical condition would she be able to find out how the profound Yin Qi seeped into her body. After listening to DMO Xian's description of what happened earlier, Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened in astonishment. She was actually controlled by the profound Yin Qi, just like Long Yunjian, but she had not come into contact with the mysterious Yin Qi. Furthermore, she had a very strong sense towards the mysterious Yin Qi. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so unafraid of Yi Qing Qian's moving and attacking profound Yin Qi. She didn't feel that her body was contaminated with the aura of the mysterious Yin Qi. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's eyes filled with shock and disbelief, DMO Xian's brows creased tightly. The people from the dark forces are really endless. They can use any methods. Old Man Tsang said, there's one more thing that's very strange. Right now, little girl Luo doesn't have the slightest bit of mysterious Yin Qi in her body. It's as if it was purposely erased. Purposely erasing it? Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as she was filled with puzzlement. When on earth did the mysterious Yin Qi invade her body? And she was still unable to detect the presence of the mysterious Yin Qi? When Long Yunjian was awakened by her blood, his body still had that extremely dense, mysterious Yin Qi. Chapter 972. Then will I still have a lust control? Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips tightly. Old Man Tsang remained silent for a moment and said, DMO Xian, that fellow should have sensed it. DMO Xian frowned. His peach blossom eyes were filled with a chilling glint. He narrowed his eyes and restrained the chill in his eyes. When he opened his mouth to explain to Yi Qing Luo, his tone was gentle. You, don't forcibly release your profound qi. Especially don't release profound qi higher than earth profound 4th grade. Stabilize at this boundary, and you will be fine. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. Last night, when the killer attacked, she indeed released earth profound 4th grade profound qi. Her original intention was to test the power of this profound grade. Then, it seemed that a killer deliberately committed suicide in front of her. He wanted to use his blood to stimulate the profound Yin Qi in her body? And my emotional instability, was it because of the profound Yin Qi in my body? Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something. DMO Xian nodded solemnly. That's possible. Yi Qing Luo's heart was in a state of utter disbelief. She had finally found the profound jade heart, obtained the divine weapon, and advanced to the profound grade. But she didn't expect that she was unable to consume the power of the earth profound grade. The more power she consumed, the more her emotions would be controlled by the profound Yin Qi. Wouldn't this make her become a max-level big boss, but had to become a 10th level small boss to be abused by others? Heavens! Wasn't God playing with her a little too much? Then, will I lose consciousness and attack Xian and my companions again? After the battle with Long Yunjian, Yi Qing Luo understood this feeling very well, unable to attack the other party, but she couldn't bear for the other party to hurt her. I will be by your side. I will find out the reason. Dmo Xian took her into his arms and pressed her head against his chest. His peach blossom eyes narrowed slightly, a biting, cold, murderous intent flashed past. Luo, wait for me, I will think of a way. The heartbeat from her chest and the man's warm embrace made Yi Qing Luo's heart gradually settle down. She raised her lips and smiled. Okay, I'll wait for you. Old man Song saw that both of them were in a good mood and the matter had already been clarified, so he didn't disturb them any further. He shut off his hearing and went to investigate why Yi Qing Luo was contaminated with the profound yin qi. Yi Qing Luo shut her eyes as she deeply absorbed his aura, his taste, his everything, as long as he could remember him completely. Next time, if he really controlled his mind again, thinking of Dmo Xian, would she sober up? The Alchemy Union was located not far from one of the 4 continents. When Yi Qing Luo and the rest arrived, it was noon on the second day. Walking out of the carriage, Yi Qing Luo discovered that the Alchemist Guild could be described as a city. It was a city for alchemists to live in. The passers-by were all alchemists dressed in green alchemy robes. Every alchemist wearing a green alchemist robe would have a badge that represented their rank pasted on their chest. This badge was issued by the Alchemy Union to prove one's alchemy level and ability. On both sides of the streets in the city, there were no other miscellaneous items. It was all medicinal herbs or various grades of pills. Even the air was filled with a thick fragrance of medicinal herbs. After Mu Zifan arrived at the city, he was summoned by the guards at the entrance. Chapter 973. Mu Zifan left first. Mu Zifei led the 2 of them to the inn first. They had already booked a room at the inn, but they didn't know that Dmo Xian would accompany them. Right now it was the alchemist competition, and the entire alchemy city was full. Then, why don't we go to the Mu family's courtyard there? Before he finished speaking, Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes. I'll share a room with Xian, it's all right. During the period when the academy had just started its term, Dmo Xian would come knocking on her door every night and conveniently occupy her bed. They were already used to sharing the same bed. Since Yi Qing Luo didn't mind, Mu Zifei naturally couldn't say anything. After leaving the things in the inn room, Mu Zifei brought Yi Qing Luo to the Alchemy Guild to register and obtain the qualification certificate for the competition. After a day's journey, tomorrow is the competition. You must rest well tonight and recuperate your profound heart jade to its best state to face the various competitions tomorrow. After Mu Zifei finished speaking, he left to give Yi Qing Luo enough time to rest. Yi Qing Luo didn't sleep well last night and was indeed tired. The venue for the alchemist competition was set at the largest alchemy plaza in Alchemy City. At this time, the plaza was surrounded by many onlookers. When Yi Qing Luo woke up early in the morning, Dmo Xian was no longer by her side. She could only follow Mu Zifei to the plaza to register. However, he was stunned by the sight of the sea of people. Immediately, she frowned slightly. The biggest taboo in alchemy was to be disturbed. With so many commoners present, the participating alchemists wouldn't be able to refine pills in peace. When refining pills, there will be an enchantment around to prevent other commoners or alchemists from obstructing the alchemist's temperament. Mu Zifei explained. Yi Qing Luo nodded. This was more like it. In the middle of the plaza stood a high platform. There were 6 white-bearded old men sitting on the high platform. They all had the demeanor of immortals. Mu Zifei sat in the middle of the old men and spoke a few words to them from time to time. Obviously, they were the judges for this competition. Seeing Mu Zifei come, the other 6 old men naturally recognized him and called him over. Mu Zifei urged Yi Qing Luo, "Go in and register first, find your position, and wait for the first competition." Yi Qing Luo followed the number on the certificate and found her position. She was in a corner of the square, and on her stone table were some medicine refining equipment, all of which had been destroyed. She was in an extremely sorry state. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly. How could the Alchemy Union make such a careless mistake? Just as she was about to request Mu Zifei to change a set of equipment, Yi Qing Luo acutely heard the whispers of several participating alchemists beside her. She glanced over from the corner of her eyes. Sure enough, she discovered that a few alchemists were huddled together and looking in her direction, their eyes full of ridicule. In other words, her position was not the fault of the Alchemist Guild. Could it be that the other alchemists were doing it on purpose? It seemed like it was her first time coming to Alchemy City. Why did these alchemists start to target her? Yi Qing Luo's expression sunk slightly as she raised her eyes and stared fixedly at those alchemists who were still sniggering. Those few alchemists seemed as though they had not expected Yi Qing Luo to have no fear at all, directly telling that it was done by them as they were all stunned. But they had nothing to fear. Instead, he raised his eyebrows provocatively at Yi Qing Luo, as though he was ridiculing her. Yi Qing Luo's eyes sunk even more. She had never been someone who was easy to provoke. Being directly stepped on in the face by others, she also did not have the habit of swallowing insults. Chapter 974. Mississippi, a clear voice suddenly came from behind. Let's change seats. I'll give my seat to you. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps paused as she turned around. She saw a young man dressed in a green alchemist robe looking at her with a face full of smiles. The young man looked slightly immature, about 16 or 17 years old, his face stained with dirt. But even so, Yi Qing Luo could see the young man's delicate features and handsome eyebrows. That pair of clear, bright eyes, she could tell that he was a rather silly and easy to bully. Sure enough, that young man had already walked forward and dragged Yi Qing Luo towards his seat. It was just beside Yi Qing Luo's seat. They destroyed your seat because they don't want you to participate in the competition. The young man muttered, Don't look for them. They definitely won't admit it. If this goes to the chief, you'll be in trouble. Yi Qing Luo allowed him to pull her and sat down on his wooden chair. She raised her brows. I have no enmity with them. Why don't they want me to participate? Because they said that you seduced the young chief and his brother and sold your body in order to win the championship. The young man stuttered as if he was very embarrassed. Yi Qing Luo suddenly understood. She finally understood the reason why these alchemists targeted her. Just because she and Mu Zifei were close? They have the advantage in numbers. Even if you get the chief to speak up, you'll be the one to suffer in the end. The young man scratched his messy hair as he stared at Yi Qing Luo. His cheeks flushed. You're so beautiful. I don't want you to be bullied. Indeed a fool. If it was in normal times, Yi Qing Luo would be too lazy to bother with such a person. But she felt that this young man was so silly that he was a little cute. He said a lot of things, but Yi Qing Luo didn't make a sound. The young man seemed to feel that he was too talkative as he scratched his head in embarrassment and walked over to Yi Qing Luo's stone table. So, sorry for disturbing you. What's your name? Yi Qing Luo suddenly called out to him. The young man blinked his clear eyes and revealed a smile. My name is Bei Ming Che. Bei Ming Che? Bei Ming family again? Look, that vixen can't stay idle again and seduced other men. Isn't that North Sea trash? What's the use of seducing a good-for-nothing? Perhaps his tone is unique? The few alchemists huddled together, gossiping, and then burst into laughter. His tone was filled with disdain. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased even tighter as she shot a glance at those talkative alchemists with an unhappy expression. Sorry. Bai Ming Che apologized again, lowered his head, and said, Because of me, they also scolded you. These people only know how to talk about right and wrong. It's useless to have them. Yi Qing Luo indifferently glanced at him. You, whether you are a waste or not, it's not up to them to decide, but you yourself, whether you are one or not. Bai Ming-che was stunned, not expecting Yi Qing Luo to say such words. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about him as she got up directly and walked towards her own seat. If this is broken, there's no way to compete. It's better if I... Shut up. Yi Qing Luo said indifferently, go back. Bai Ming-che moved his mouth, but on seeing her cold expression, he could only hang his head dejectedly and return to his seat. So what if the stone table was broken? Later on during the competition, she would just need another set of alchemy equipment. During the competition, she would not pursue this matter for now. Chapter 975. Yi Qing Luo kept a low profile with the Alchemist Guild, as she exchanged a new set of alchemy equipment. As for the damaged stone table, to Yi Qing Luo, it didn't matter at all. The person in charge of the alchemist competition, Elder Wu Tao, only politely requested to change the equipment for the competition when he saw this young lady who had a close relationship with the young Alliance Master and his brother. As for other matters, he did not mention a single word. Wu Tao had a good impression of her. Those open strife and veiled strife between alchemists, they had seen too much, especially for someone like Yi Qing Luo, who was an enviable existence. Naturally, he would be pushed aside by the other alchemists. Naturally, he would not interfere in this matter if he could. Yi Qing Luo brought along the refining tools and returned to her own position. The pharmacist sneered at him again. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as her lips curled into a chilly arc. Go ahead, go ahead. After a while, there would be no chance for him to speak. Clang, clang, clang. The bell signaling the start of the competition had already rung. All the alchemists quickly returned to their positions. On the high platform, Mu Zifan gave a speech according to the competition procedure. Then he got someone to bring the prizes of the champion to the high platform and place them there to motivate the various alchemists. Yi Qing Luo knew that this was a segment that Mu Zifan had specially arranged in order to confirm whether the light spirit immortal herb was among the prizes. When she saw the light spirit immortal grass being placed on the table, Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up slightly. There were indeed spiritual immortal herbs. When the prizes were placed on the table one by one, the alchemists let out exclamations of joy. They stared at the prizes in a daze, wishing they could take them all home. Bai Ming-che looked at the girl beside him in confusion. The expression on her face was too calm. It was as if these rewards were insignificant to her. Thinking of her indifference towards him just now, Bai Ming-che rubbed his nose and withdrew his gaze. Clang, clang, clang. After Mu Zifan finished speaking, the second bell rang. This was the bell that signified the beginning of the competition. Standing on the high platform, Elder Wu Yao began to explain the rules. The competition was divided into 3 rounds. Today, the first written test and the second pill refining competition would be held. Tomorrow was the 3rd round of the competition. The overall results of the 3 matches will be added together. The results of the competition would be announced in the afternoon. Clang, clang, clang. The 3rd city's bell rang, signaling the start of the competition. The first round of the competition tested an alchemist's answers to questions related to medicinal ingredients, alchemy techniques, and various alchemy-related questions. To Yi Qing Luo, who possessed the 100-pill refining pill and had read extensively at Ghost Doctor's Place, this was totally not a problem. Carefree and relaxed. Yi Qing Luo had already finished answering the test paper before half of the time had passed. When she put down the brush and ink, the surrounding commoners all looked at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. Those few alchemists looked at Yi Qing Luo suspiciously. He thought that she couldn't answer the questions on the test paper and gave up. The second round of the competition was a pill refining competition. Whoever refined a pill of better quality and better effect would be able to get a higher score. The duration of the competition was 1.5 hours. In the first hour, he could go to the medicinal herb storehouse below the high platform at any time to take the medicinal herbs he needed. For the next 2 hours, no alchemist was allowed to leave the position where they were refining the pills. After the competition began, a large group of alchemists swarmed into the medicinal ingredient warehouse. Yi-Ching Luo wasn't anxious. On the side, Bai Ming-che was not impatient either. Chapter 976. After an incense worth of time, more than half of the alchemists were out. Yi-Ching Luo then started to take action. Bai Ming-che saw this and followed into the medicinal herb storehouse. The medicinal herb storehouse was in a mess. Because of the frenzied snatching, various medicinal herbs were mixed together. The high-quality medicinal herbs were all taken away by those alchemists. Yi-Ching Luo took the medicine basket and walked one round around the medicinal herb storehouse. Half squinting her eyes, she went through the names of these medicinal herbs in her mind. Bai Ming-che originally wanted to follow Yi-Ching Luo and see what medicinal herb she took. He would follow suit. From the written examination, Bai Ming-che felt that this beautiful lady was absolutely an incredible alchemist. At least, she was a grandmaster-level alchemist. However, Yi-Ching Luo stood in the middle of the medicinal herb storehouse and didn't move. On seeing that there wasn't enough time, Bai Ming-che could only give up his original plan and went to take the medicinal herbs first. Just at this moment, Yi-Ching Luo's eyes suddenly opened. Her slender palm flipped, and a burst of strong, profound qi broke out from her body. The surrounding medicinal herbs followed the profound qi and rolled around. One by one, the medicinal herbs revolved around the profound qi and headed towards Yi-Ching Luo's medicine basket. But in a moment, Yi-Ching Luo's medicine basket was filled with medicinal herbs. She turned around and left the medicinal herb storehouse directly. The remaining large bunch of alchemists were all dumbstruck. Who would choose medicinal herbs in such a way? No one saw clearly what medicinal herbs Yi-Ching Luo had chosen. When she returned to the competition grounds, Yi-Ching Luo discovered that near all the stone tables, there were 2 white sails raised. The stone table at the alchemist's seat was separated from the other stone tables. Yi-Ching Luo understood. There were many alchemists, but every alchemist's pill refining techniques and knowledge towards medicinal herbs were all different. Every alchemist had their own set of secret pill refining methods. These skills must not be secretly learnt by other alchemists. These 2 white sails were to protect the secrets between the alchemists. Yi-Ching Luo placed the medicine basket by the side and started to refine pills. Ghost Doctor said before that the most important thing in refining pills was to be calm and composed, without any distracting thoughts, using the purest heart fire to refine the purest pills. Hence, she threw away all distracting thoughts. Winning the championship, obtaining the light spirit immortal grass, curing Yen, Shao, etc. All these thoughts were thrown to the back of her mind. The only thought in his mind was to refine the pill that he planned to refine. A high-grade level 5 medicinal pill. High-grade level 5 pills could only be refined by alchemists above the rank of Grand Apothecary. Moreover, a Grandmaster Apothecary would have a very low success rate. Not to mention high-grade medicinal pills. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Although Yi-Ching Luo had learnt alchemy skills from Ghost Doctor, but now she had only just stepped into the apothecary level. On the surface, the only thing missing was the word great. However, the difference in strength between them was like the difference between heaven and earth. He chose to take the risk to refine a high-grade level 5 pill mainly because she filtered all the remaining medicinal herbs in the medicinal herb storehouse. This was the only pill that could get a high score. The rest of the herbs could only be used to refine some upper grade level 2 or 3 elixirs, or lower grade level 4 elixirs. What Yi-Ching Luo wanted was a sure-win method. In that case, the fastest way would be to refine high grade level 5 pills. Yi-Ching Luo kept away all her thoughts as she took down that set of alchemy equipment and squatted directly under the stone table, sitting on the ground. Chapter 977. The participating alchemists were unable to see the refining techniques of the other alchemists, but those few judges standing on the high platform were able to see all the actions of the other alchemists. As the young chief, Mu Zifan concealed himself very well and only occasionally looked in Yi Qing Luo's direction. But Mu Zifei's eyes were fixed on Yi Qing Luo's direction, not even blinking once. From the time they knew Yi Qing Luo, they had never seen Yi Qing Luo refine pills. They only knew that the pills that Yi Qing Luo refined were completely different from the other alchemists. Just what kind of secret was hidden within? As alchemists, they were naturally very interested in this point. But after watching for a long time, they only saw Yi Qing Luo leisurely washing the utensils and took out stalks of herbs from the herb basket. While wiping the dust off, she carefully placed them into the utensils. No matter how they looked, it felt, she didn't look like a professional alchemist. There were only 2 hours left to concoct the elixir, and she was still leisurely washing these medicinal herbs. Another half an hour passed, and Yi Qing Luo finally stopped this action. She reached into the utensils and condensed profound qi at her fingertips, crushing all the herbs that she had just washed clean. Then she placed it on the stove at the side. Her palms moved and released the heart flame. The small flame began to refine these herbs. Yi Qing Luo immediately began the next wave of washing, crushing, delivering and increasing the power of the heart flame. Back and forth, on the third time, there was only 1 hour left to refine the pills. Mu Zifei was already sweating profusely. "Brother, what do you think Yi Qing Luo wants to do?" Mu Zifan was calm and composed. His gentle face revealed a meaningful smile. "Look at the medicinal herbs she has chosen." Herbs? When Mu Zifei heard this, he immediately looked at Yi Qing Luo's herb basket and the many discarded roots that had been torn off. He could roughly identify what herbs they were. Just now he had put all his attention on Yi Qing Luo's refining techniques. He didn't pay attention to what herbs Yi Qing Luo took. He was slightly startled by what he saw. She can't be spirit ginseng, 1,000-leaf record, 9-tune leaf. These herbs, added up one by one to refine, that's right. Mu Zifan's pitch-black eyes stared deeply at Yi Qing Luo as he slightly nodded. She wants to refine a 5th-grade medicinal pill, Ice Soul Spirit Ginseng pill. A 5th-grade medicinal pill, or Ice Soul Spirit Ginseng pill. In the entire alchemy union, even a grandmaster alchemist wouldn't be able to confidently say that he or she could refine the pill. Yi Qing Luo. She actually dared to refine this kind of medicinal pill in the competition. Was she too confident in herself? Or did she want to stake everything on one throw? Refining the Ice Soul Spirit Ginseng pill requires at least a day and a night's time. These 2 hours, she already wasted a full hour. How could she possibly succeed? Mu Zifei clenched his fists tightly as a worried expression surfaced on his face. If it's her, it's possible. Mu Zifan didn't know why, but he believed in Yi Qing Luo's ability. In his heart, Yi Qing Luo would never do anything that she had no confidence in. In order to save Yan Shao Yi, she would definitely not lose this competition. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo had chosen to refine the Ice Soul Spirit Ginseng pill, it definitely represented that she had this confidence. As for the time spent on refining, and the fact that she had spent so much time on it, Chapter 978. Clang, clang, clang. The bell rang, accompanied by the elder's voice, which spread throughout the entire square. There is still 1 incense stick of time before the end of the competition. Hearing this time, the actions of those alchemists became more and more urgent. The released heart fire also became more and more vigorous. Some alchemists had already finished refining the pills, sweating as they sat in their positions, waiting for the last incense stick of time. Yi Qing Luo was currently using small fire to refine the tools. Wave after wave of heart fire constantly surged. Her forehead had already seeped sweat. It was impossible to say that she was not flustered. The ice spirit ginseng pill was originally not an easy pill to refine. If it was in normal times, she would need at least half a day to refine it. Moreover, it relied on the power of the dragon god cauldron. However, now she was using an ordinary tool that could not be any more ordinary. To refine it within 2 hours, it was really a bit difficult. But a bit difficult, she had to do it. She did not have the qualifications to lose the competition. She had to win. She had to win. The sweat on her forehead had already reached her curly eyelashes, blurring her eyes. Clang, clang, clang. Another burst of bell rang. There is still half an incense stick of time before the end of the competition. Yi Qing Luo's chin dripped a drop of sweat. She gazed at the tool, suddenly raised her palm, and slapped towards the nearby tool. That tool bounced up. In the next moment, a ball of heart fire directly wrapped that tool. Like a fire dragon, it completely swallowed that tool. Mu Zifei cried out, staring incredulously at that tool wrapped by the heart fire. Brother, the power of her heart fire is actually this. I will not misjudge people. Mu Zifan's eyes concealed a trace of excitement and joy. He finally waited for Yi Qing Luo to appear. He knew Yi Qing Luo could help him refine the pills he wanted. At the moment when the last incense stick of time was extinguished, that flame that wrapped Yi Qing Luo's tool suddenly dissipated. The tool fell into Yi Qing Luo's hands. She took out the pill and placed it into the medicine bottle provided by the Alchemist Guild. Immediately, she pasted her name on it. When the paper was stuck to the bottle flashed and the paper fused with the bottle. Aside from the elders of the Alchemy Union, no one could open this bottle. This was also to ensure the fairness of the alchemist competition. After the second round of competition ended, Yi Qing Luo was already exhausted. When the elder took the bottle and Bai Fan pulled it down, Bai Fan's expression changed. Mu Zifan spoke a few simple words and let all the alchemists go back to rest. Yi Qing Luo held her forehead. In order to save time, he had used up a bit too much of his profound heart jade's energy. She shook her head and walked out of her seat. On the opposite side, Bai Mingche had coincidentally walked out and saw Yi Qing Luo's exhausted face. Miss, are you all right? You don't look well. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand, rejecting his concern. He then left the alchemy square. She passed by the 4 alchemists who were surrounding her and Bai Mingche. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold. Her body suddenly went limp, and she bumped into one of the alchemists. That alchemist immediately scolded angrily and was just about to stretch out his hand to push her away. But Yi Qing Luo grabbed his wrist. Yi Qing Luo weakly propped up her body and weakly hooked up a trace of an apologetic smile. Sorry, refining the pill exhausted the power of the heart fire. My body is somewhat unstable. Chapter 979. After walking out of the public square, Yi Qing Luo's peripheral vision caught a glimpse of those alchemists who were still cursing and swearing as her eyes turned cold. She chuckled and retracted her gaze. Following that, she turned around and walked towards the direction of the inn. She had just turned around when she bumped into a familiar broad embrace. The familiar sandalwood scent seeped into her nostrils. Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved as she raised her hand to encircle his neck and tiptoed as she kissed him on the lips. Where did you go? Checking on some matters. DMO Xian gently pinched her cheek. Seeing that he wasn't willing to say more, Yi Qing Luo didn't ask any further. DMO Xian had accompanied her to the Alchemist Guild. He must have pushed away many things from the imperial palace. Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as guilt started to spread from the bottom of her heart. Xian, thank you. Staring at the sudden flash of disappointment and apology in Yi Qing Luo's eyes, DMO Xian's thin lips rose slightly as he pinched her chin. How are you going to thank me? His voice was deep and mellow like fine wine, and it was filled with hints of seductive charm. Yi Qing Luo only felt that she couldn't hold it in any longer. This tormenting evildoer, flirting at the slightest disagreement. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes as she stared at this face in a daze. Even with half a mask, it was still unable to conceal his peerless looks. Following that, she tiptoed again as she offered her pink lips without any scruples. The surroundings were bustling with people. Yi Qing Luo didn't care about other people's gazes. Dmo Xian's gloomy deep eyes were filled with a tender smile. He was about to tighten his grip on her and deepen the kiss. But unexpectedly, the young lady in his arms suddenly went limp as she fell into his arms. Lil Luo? Dmo Xian's expression turned flustered as he supported her with one arm as he sized up her condition. The young lady's eyes were shut as her eyelashes appeared long and thick. Her tender red lips were stained with strands of silver, giving off an alluring luster. Smooth and gentle breathing, gently inhaling and exhaling. She had only fallen asleep. This awareness made Dmo Xian heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, he felt helpless. How could there be a woman who was kissing a man and was about to ignite a raging fire, and then she actually fell asleep? Was his charm not as good as before? Lad, just let little girl Luo rest for a while. She has just refined a top-grade level 5 pill and has used up too much of her Heartfire's power, causing her body to be overloaded. That's why she's in self-recovery mode. Old Man Tsang transmitted his voice into Dmo Xian's mind. Dmo Xian frowned slightly as he stared at the young lady sleeping soundly in his arms. Why did she like to put on a brave front so much? He stretched out his arm and directly carried Yi Qing Luo's waist as he left towards the direction of the inn. Behind them, a youth wearing an azure alchemist's robe stared at their departing figures in a daze. A trace of doubt flashed across her clear eyes. So, she could also have such a gentle side. Yi Qing Luo slept all the way till the next morning. Dmo Xian was still not in the room. He must have left to handle some matters. Yi Qing Luo got up and slightly revolved the power of her profound jade heart. He could control it freely. The feeling of overexertion from yesterday was also gone. Just as she left the inn, she saw Mu Zifei waiting for her on the first floor. Seeing her coming down, he greeted her with a grin. Qing Luo, have you rested well? Do you have confidence in today's third round? And no problem. Yi Qing Luo nodded. The two of them left the inn together and headed towards the Pill Refining Square. Chapter 980. Alliance Leader? The Alchemist Union's Union Master personally inspecting? He was so busy that he could compete with Dmo Xian. The dragon's head was nowhere to be seen. He actually personally came to the Alchemy Union to check the results of the competition? You also secretly reveal a little to me yesterday's medicinal pill. Was it successfully refined? Mu Zifei leaned close to Yi Qing Luo and asked in a low voice. Yi Qing Luo nodded. Yes, but time was a little rushed, so I did manage to refine the high-grade Ice Soul Spirit ginseng pill. Only the middle grade. Mid-middle rank. Mu Zifei was thoroughly stupefied. Yesterday, when he and his brother were still discussing, he thought that Yi Qing Luo wanted to refine a low-grade Ice Soul Spirit ginseng pill. He hadn't expected that she actually wanted to refine a high-grade 5th level pill. This was way too confident. If there are other alchemists who are able to refine higher quality medicinal pills, I'm afraid it won't be easy to win. Yi Qing Luo shook her head helplessly. We can only watch the third round. But Mu Zifei didn't think so. To be able to refine a level 5 elixir in just 2 hours was already a heaven-defying matter. Furthermore, it was a middle-grade Ice Soul Spirit ginseng pill. Among this batch of alchemists, he hadn't discovered any alchemist whose innate talent or refining ability surpassed Yi Qing Luo. No, wait. Mu Zifei suddenly recalled that his elder brother mentioned an alchemist yesterday. He was extremely satisfied with the pill that the alchemist refined in the second round. To Yiqing Luo, would there be any threat? Mu Zifei was just about to tell Yiqing Luo, but after careful consideration, he still kept his mouth shut. The main reason why Yiqing Luo took part in the competition was because of the light spirit immortal grass. If he made her feel pressured now, it would affect her performance in the third round. The third round was similar to the second round. The difference was the second round was to refine pills. The third round was to concoct poison. Compared to refining pills, poison was much more troublesome. This was because the ingredients for poisons were mostly all kinds of medicinal herbs and herbs that contain toxins. If they were not careful, it was very likely that the alchemist would be poisoned. Furthermore, if any accidents were to happen during the refining process, he would definitely be able to deal with them. The poison of this poison would follow the power of the heart fire and directly spread into the profound jade heart of the alchemist. In the end, it spread to his limbs and bones. This was also the reason why countless alchemists chose to become orthodox alchemists. As for people like Yi Fengru, they weren't orthodox alchemists. They were dark alchemists who specialized in concocting poisons. The books that the ghost doctor had taught her and shown her were basically all medicinal herbs and techniques used by orthodox medicine refiners. He had never taught her how to refine poison pills. Here, Yiqing Luo wanted to once again deeply thank the existence of the 100 refinement pill. She had already memorized all the herbs and medicine list in the 100 pill refining manual. She was also fearless in the third round. He entered the plaza and found a seat. Yiqing Luo sat on the wooden chair, waiting for the third round of the competition to begin. Not long after, there was a commotion in the square, for women, along with a group of guards, were trying to force their way over to them. The guards of the alchemy guild couldn't even stop them. Those 4 ladies speedily rushed into the public square and directly walked in front of Yiqing Luo, pointing at her with a face filled with rage. Each and every one of them opened their mouths and gesticulated angrily. However, not a single one of them could make a sound. This farce caused the elders on the platform to feel displeased. Chapter 981. From among the guards, a lady who was dressed like a wet nurse popped out. She stood in the middle of the 4 ladies as she wailed mournfully, "Our young miss took part in your alchemist guild's alchemist competition because she worships the alchemist guild and wanted to join you. But now she's being poisoned in your place." Wu Tao's brows creased as he berated her sternly. "Who is your young miss? How did she get poisoned? If you can't give me an explanation, this elder will chase you out of Alchemy City right now." That lady suddenly knelt down on the ground as she pointed at the 4 ladies behind her while wailing, "This is my young miss, and the other 3 are my young miss's friends." For young misses were taking part in the alchemist competition at the pill refining plaza yesterday, but suffered this vicious little slut's evil scheme. For young misses, can't make any sound, listening to the ladies' cries. Wu Tao's face was filled with suspicion as he looked at those 4 ladies as his brows creased tightly. Those 4 ladies were the alchemists who gossiped and smashed Yiqing Luo's seat yesterday. At this moment, all of them were gesticulating as their mouths kept moving, but no sound could be heard at all. "What evidence do you have to prove that I did it?" Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile. "I've just arrived and purely wanted to take part in the alchemist competition. I have no enmity with the 4 young misses, so why would I lay my hands on them?" Her brows rose as her gaze looked straight at those 4 furious ladies. Could it be that the 4 young misses have done something to me which would make me lay my hands on you? When she said that, those 4 ladies were stunned. Yiqing Luo continued to smile. "Yesterday, after taking part in the second round of written examinations, my heart flame's energy was exhausted, so I left the plaza and returned to the inn to rest." This point, second young master Mu can testify. Mu Zifei, who was named, immediately nodded his head. Right. Yesterday, after leaving the plaza, she fainted and I believe there are quite a number of alchemists present as well as commoners who saw it. After that, she had been resting in the inn until now. This point I can testify. The four ladies' faces instantly turned steely green as they looked at each other in dismay, as though they had eaten a pile of sh** tea. Wu Tao immediately frowned and furiously called out to the guards. Chase these troublemakers away. They don't know right from wrong and wrongly accuse others. Yesterday, they even gathered a crowd to bully foreign alchemists, break the positions of other alchemists, and disrupt the Alchemist Guild's official business. This elder will also represent the Alchemy Union to personally ask all of you ladies how you handed this junior over to you. The four women were frightened. They trembled as they stood to the side, not daring to point fingers. The woman's cries stopped abruptly. The Alchemy Union was the most powerful force in Alchemy City. Seeing that Wu Tao was furious, the guards brought by the four women did not dare to act rashly. However, the few of them were forcefully restrained. These four women are so young, but their hearts are so vicious. They don't distinguish right from wrong, and they even attempt to murder others. The Alchemy Union doesn't dare to accept such people. Wu Yu's eyes narrowed as she coldly swept her gaze over those people. These four women will be stripped of their alchemy qualifications and will never be recruited again. With a stern shout, those few people were brought away. When Wu Tao faced Yi Qing Luo, he restrained some of his anger. This matter is the problem of the Alchemy Union's order being lax. I hope Miss Yi is magnanimous enough to forgive us. Chapter 982. Yes, this is the assessment to join the Alchemist Guild. If the alchemist is outstanding in the assessment, he will be accepted as a closed-door disciple by the Alchemist Guild's elder. Wu Tao nodded his head as he stared at her with glowing eyes and asked tentatively, "May I know which elder Miss Yi is in love with?" Mu Zifan. Yi Qing Luo spat out these 3 words through gritted teeth. Wu Tao was stunned. "You want to be apprenticed to the young chief?" "I want to strangle him to death." Yi Qing Luo grinded her teeth with a fake smile as she coldly swept a glance at the Mu brothers on the high platform. Wu Tao. This was the first time someone wanted to strangle their young chief. Yi Qing Luo's heart was filled with the feeling of King Dog. She was cheated by the Mu brothers. Initially, he thought that it was just a simple competition. She didn't expect it to be the assessment to join the Alchemist Guild. The Mu brothers were determined to pull her into the Alchemist Guild. But even if she knew that this was the assessment to join the Alchemist Guild, she was afraid that she would still resolutely participate in this competition. This was the only way to get the light spirit immortal herb. The third round, the competition to refine the poison pill, kicked off. Yi Qing Luo was still the same as the second round. After entering the medicinal storehouse, she casually glanced around and quickly found the medicinal herbs that she needed. Returning to her position, Yi Qing Luo started to refine the poison pill. But she didn't know that there were 2 pairs of eyes on the high platform, staring at her without blinking. This is the alchemist that you think has an extremely high innate talent? Behind Mu Zifan was a middle-aged man dressed in a white robe. Mu Zifan didn't turn back as he smiled and nodded. Yes. Mu Zifei also widened his eyes, looking at Yi Qing Luo's actions, puzzled and puzzled. The medicinal herbs she chose are all ordinary poisonous herbs, and there's also a small amount of poisonous raw materials, that's all. How can these medicinal herbs refine the winning poison pill? Mu Zifan and that middle-aged man smiled but didn't say a word. Indeed, the medicinal herbs that Yi Qing Luo chose were just ordinary poisonous herbs and poisonous raw materials. But once these poisonous herbs and raw materials were combined together, the toxicity would be stronger than countless other poison pills. Her technique is also very thought-provoking. The middle-aged man looked at Yi Qing Luo thoughtfully. If you want to make use of poisonous herbs and poisonous raw materials to fuse them together to become a highly toxic poisonous pill, then you must control the amount of each poisonous herb and raw material, not one bit more or less. Mu Zifan nodded. Looking at the entire alchemy union, I'm afraid that even I wouldn't be able to confidently say that I would be able to mix an appropriate amount. She is indeed an extremely talented apothecary, but looking at her refining technique, it reminds me of someone who could make the current alchemy union head had to be a master. The Alliance Master's lips twitched slightly. A dark and gloomy glint flashed across his eyes as he slowly spat out 2 words, "Ghost Doctor." The third match ended. After Yi Qing Luo handed over the medicine bottle, she waited patiently for the results to come out. Because the third round was about refining poison pills, the medicinal herbs prepared in the medicine storehouse were not very toxic. Yi Qing Luo took a risk out of desperation and used the most ordinary poisonous herbs and raw materials to combine them together. As long as the amount and flame was controlled well, she would be able to refine a type of extremely toxic pill. This prescription was learnt from the 100 medicines, pill refining. Yi Qing Luo was very confident about the third round's poison pill. All the alchemists waited at the same spot for a full 1 hour. Chapter 983. The winner of this round selection was personally chosen by the chief. When Yi Qing Luo's examination paper and the second and third round's medicinal pills were placed in front of everyone, Yi Qing Luo's suspenseful heart finally calmed down. She had won the first place in this round's alchemist competition. Because of Yi Qing Luo's relationship with the Mu brothers, the Alchemist Guild had specially announced Yi Qing Luo's participation in the 3 rounds of the competition. The first round of written examinations. The examination paper, full marks, no mistakes at all. The second round of alchemy competition. Middle grade ice soul spirit ginseng pill. High quality, the most outstanding medicinal pill among the many alchemists. The third round of refining poisonous pills. Top grade twin poisons, high quality, and was the most outstanding one among all the poisonous pills. The crowd's gaze towards Yi Qing Luo was as though they were looking at a monster. This was simply too abnormal. Just a short 2 hours, and she was able to refine such a good medicinal pill? They must have opened their eyes in the wrong way. It was absolutely the wrong way of looking at the results. Miss Yi, congratulations on becoming the second 24th round's Alchemist Competitions champion. These prizes are all yours. The chief stood on the stage as he gazed at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo remained calm as she replied emotionlessly, "Thank you, Chief, for your appreciation." Saying that, she didn't have any shyness as she walked up and received those prizes from the chief's hands. From the start to the end, her expression had not changed at all. Chief narrowed his eyes in interest as he laughed softly. "I wonder which elder Miss Yi has your heart set on. You can directly acknowledge him as your master." Yi Qing Luo frowned as she lowered her head to look at the prizes in her hands and placed it back on the table. She only took out the light spirit immortal grass. "It's my honor to join the Alchemist Guild, but I currently have no intention to acknowledge anyone as my master. As for the other prizes, just treat it as me presenting Buddha with borrowed flowers to all the elders." Chief looked thoughtfully at the light spirit immortal grass in Yi Qing Luo's hands. Strange. That person had really guessed correctly. By adding the light spirit immortal grass into the prizes, the genius alchemist that Mu Zifan wanted would definitely come looking for him. How did that person guess that someone would need the light spirit immortal grass? What motive did that person have? Seeing the silence, numerous people were silently scolding Yi Qing Luo for not knowing what's good for her. Mu Zifan stood up and smiled warmly. "Master, Qing Luo's companion has been poisoned by the purple poppy grass and urgently needs the elixir herb to detoxify the poison. Moreover, Qing Luo is still a student. Since the competition is over, I'll send her back to the academy first. As for the rest, we'll talk about it during the next vacation. What do you think, Master?" Mu Zifan knew how Yi Qing Luo felt about this matter. After obtaining the spiritual immortal herb, She couldn't wait to return to Yan Xiaoyi's side and help her refine the antidote. At this moment, he definitely didn't have the mood to stay and celebrate. He extended the invitation to Yi Qing Luo was indeed to pull her into the Alchemist Guild's banner. He had lied to Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo wanted to leave the Alchemist Guild immediately, so he helped her settle it immediately. The Alliance Master's gaze was still profound. He rubbed his chin and smiled faintly. The matter of the antidote cannot be delayed. Come back as soon as possible. Yes. Mu Zifan respectfully bowed towards the chief and immediately looked towards Yi Qing Luo. His clear eyes were filled with some apologies. After a long while he said, "I'm sorry." Yi Qing Luo had no intention to blame him. Mu Zifan wanted to rope her in and invite her to join the Alchemist Guild. She was very clear about this. After Xiao Yi recovers, I'll report to the Alchemist Guild during the next vacation. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. Since this was the Alchemist Guild's rule, she had to abide by it. Chapter 984. Yi Qing Luo's words made Mu Zifan feel even more guilty. "Qing Luo, if you're not willing, I can explain the situation to Master." He admitted that right from the start his motive was to pull Yi Qing Luo into the Alchemist Guild. But when Yi Qing Luo was willing to join the Alchemist Guild, Mu Zifan was flustered. He knew that Yi Qing Luo was willing to join the Alchemist Guild because she didn't want to see him being put on the spot. It was just like how she would rather make a move in secret and poison those 4 female alchemists. But on the surface, she would swallow her anger and not argue with those alchemists. It was also for his own good. Even though she was deceived by him, she still treated him as a friend. "I joined the Alchemy Union because I want to abide by the Union's rules. You don't need to feel burdened." Yi Qing Luo saw his remorseful look and shot him a comforting smile. "Even if you didn't invite me to take part in the competition, but if I can get the spiritual immortal grass, I will still come." Mu Zifan pursed his thin lips and gazed at Yi Qing Luo's face. Her face was reflected in his deep, dark eyes. After a long time, Mu Zifan lowered his eyelids. "I have my reasons for doing this. After this matter is over, I will tell you my reasons." Yi Qing Luo nodded with a smile. "All right." After getting the spirit immortal grass, Yi Qing Luo didn't want to stay any longer. When she returned to the inn, Dmo Xian was already waiting for her. He totally believed that Yi Qing Luo would be able to bring back the spirit immortal grass. The 4 of them left the inn, abandoned the horse carriage, and rushed back to the Heavenly Academy overnight. When they arrived at the Heavenly Academy, it was already the next morning. When Yi Qing Luo returned to the academy, she took the Ganoderma grass and headed towards the library pavilion's 2nd story, passing the spirit immortal grass to Ghost Doctor. The Ghost Doctor stared at the spiritual immortal grass for a long time. His sinister eyes narrowed slightly. "You got it from the Alchemy Guild?" Yi Qing Luo nodded. "Yes." "Is there any problem?" "No problem." The Ghost Doctor casually placed the spiritual immortal grass on the messy table at the side. "Come and get the antidote tonight." Hearing Ghost Doctor say that, Yi Qing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. After relaxing, his whole body felt exhausted. After bidding farewell to Ghost Doctor, Yi Qing Luo returned to the Devil class, preparing to head to the spiritual Qi grounds to rest for a few hours. Arriving at the training grounds, 10 over youngsters were sitting on the ground. When they saw Yi Qing Luo, they didn't welcome her with the joy they had imagined, to ask her about the results of the competition. All of them were frowning and stuttering, as if they wanted to say something but didn't dare to. Yi Qing Luo hooked her finger at Ni Ruopan. "What happened?" Ni Ruopan moved her body forward and said with a worried expression, "On the day you left the academy, the dean sent a notice to all the students saying that the interclass competition would be brought forward." Bringing forward the interclass competition? Yi Qing Luo was stunned and frowned at Ni Ruopan. "Why?" The news of Devil class participating in the inter-class competition has reached the dean. And Rupin clenched her fists tightly. Her face was filled with anger. The same goes for Shangguan Liuli's bet. It seems like the Shangguan clan has joined hands with some other big clans and requested for the inter-class competition to be held in advance. Just for this reason, Yi Qingluo's slender brows rose slightly, but she felt that things weren't that simple. President, was it because of the other large clans that the inter-class competition was brought forward? If her guess wasn't wrong, this year's inter-class competition should be prepared for the King of Darkness. Chapter 985. What Assessment Segment? Yi Qingluo's slender brows creased as she sensed something amiss. Rua Pan puffed her cheeks angrily. Director announced that the inter-class competition will be held in the middle of next month, and those who wish to take part must first pass the Heavenly Pagoda's ability assessment. This test is obviously targeted at our Devil class. Principal, this test is to force our Devil class to back off. Still saying it's for the sake of Devil class's students. This assessment, as long as 10 students are able to come out from the Heavenly Pagoda, then it will be considered as passing the assessment. The students vented the anger in their hearts with righteous indignation. More importantly, Long Yunjian remained silent for a long time before opening his mouth, faintly. 1 month later, to participate in the inter-class competition. To Devil class, it's a little too rushed. Yi Qingluo's gaze swept around, and those in front of her lowered their heads because of this sentence. If there was another 6 to 7 months' time, they might have the confidence to improve themselves and go against the other classes. But time was tight, and there was only 1 month left. Their ability was indeed much stronger than many students in the intermediate and high profound classes. But if they really had to compete, it would still be a little difficult. After all, there was a reason why the high profound class was called high profound class. Daily small scuffles. To let the high profound class suffer a little was not a problem. The competition was completely different from completing missions, killing people, and so on. They were not of the same nature. If they really had to compete, they might not be able to gain the upper hand. And the most important reason was, it was the bet that Yi Qingluo and Shangguan Luli had set. It wasn't winning Shangguan Luli, winning the high profound class. It would be considered as winning the bet. But winning the championship. What was set was a blood oath bet, so it had to be fulfilled. Next month was the competition, and they had to take part in the inter-class competition's ability assessment. There was no time for them to prepare at all. The other classes, each class had about 300 over people, whereas Devil class, the entire class only had 60 people, including Kitty Lee. In terms of numbers, they were already at a disadvantage. Do you have the confidence to pass the assessment? Yi Qingluo heard that, but didn't reveal any excess emotions. The youths in Devil class were all stunned. Those youths who lowered their heads in guilt and had no confidence all raised their heads, yes. Yi Qingluo's eyes narrowed slightly as her voice was no longer as gentle as usual. You don't even have enough confidence in the ability assessment. What inter-class competition is there to talk about? The youngsters trembled as they looked at Yi Qingluo's imposing gaze as they clenched their fists tightly. When he spoke again, his voice was extremely loud and clear. I have confidence. If you can't even pass the mysterious pagoda strength test, then how can you participate in the inter-class competition? What qualifications do you have to talk about winning? If you're confident, then why are you worried? Yi Qingluo's charming eyes swept past everyone in front of her. The powerful aura caused everyone's hearts to tremble. The youth's slightly childish faces gradually overflowed with radiance. Their burning gazes were fixated on Yi Qingluo's direction. Seeing the glint in their eyes, Yi Qingluo then revealed a smile, but her voice and tone was still dignified. If you have the confidence to pass the ability assessment, then you have enough ability to take part in the competition. The youths replied in unison, yes. We are confident we can take first place. Chapter 986. You must have rushed back through the night. Long Yunjan saw the fatigue in Yi Qing Luo's eyes. Go and rest first, I'll train them. Ever since they returned from King Ling's tomb, the distance between Long Yunjan and them seemed to have a barrier. The brothers didn't blame him, but he couldn't get over that barrier. He had isolated himself from the world outside of them. This barrier could only be walked out by Long Yunjan himself. Yi Qing Luo sighed softly as her slender fingers pressed on her brows. All right, I'll leave this place to you. I'll go take a rest first. When she passed by Long Yunjan, she raised her hand and patted his shoulder lightly. A light voice, like a mosquito's mumble, floated into his ears. Long Yunjan shuddered. His azure blue eyes congealed deeply towards Yi Qing Luo, but he saw Yi Qing Luo already walking towards the direction of the classroom, waving her hand without turning back. She said, I understand you, but please don't give up on everyone. This sentence had left an indelible mark in his heart. She actually understood him so well, knew that even if he stayed, his heart was filled with guilt towards these students, towards Yan Shaoyi. He stayed because he didn't want to see his brothers constantly worrying about him, and not being able to do anything else. So he swallowed all the guilt by himself, trying his best to display the past look in front of his brothers. That's right, even if he gave up on himself. But he couldn't give up on everyone. When he looked back, Long Yunjan's gaze had already added some calmness. He had no emotions on his face, as his gaze congealed on the youngsters in front of him, his voice sonorous and forceful. Don't forget what Qing Luo once said, whether we are trash or not is not up to others to decide, but up to ourselves. We don't want to be treated as trash by others, then. This time is our battle to rise up. Not only do we need to fight for ourselves, we also need to fight for Qing Luo. For ourselves, for Qing Luo, our training must be even harder. Every single word was like a bell, striking into one's heart. The strong, imposing manner, as well as his own prestige, incited the youngsters' battle intent. What we need to do is to win the championship, not try our best, not possibly. I will not accept any result other than winning the championship. The youths in Devil class stared at their own class monitor. The class monitor, who had never spoken such a long sentence before, had never spoken such a long sentence. The radiance in his eyes grew brighter. All of them nodded their heads vigorously. Yes, we will definitely be the champion. We will definitely be the champion. What they persisted in was not just to change the impression they gave others, and to fight for Yi Qing Luo. He absolutely could not allow Yi Qing Luo to have her profound heart jade crippled and her meridians crippled. Yi Qing Luo rested for about 6 hours in the spirit Qi treasure land. His fatigue was swept away. She stretched her body and left a treasure trove of spiritual energy. As soon as he left, he heard the sounds of the youths training in Training Cheng's area. There was a smile in her eyes, but she didn't go over to disturb them. Looking at the time, it was almost evening. After not eating for a day, he left the Devil class and prepared to get something to eat. Just as he walked out of the Devil class's courtyard, he saw Lu Xiaoyu walking towards him. Qing Luo. Lu Xiaoyu called out happily. She didn't expect to see her just when she was about to look for Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's long arm hooked over her shoulder. Let's go. I'll treat you to a meal at the canteen. Chapter 987. The Cafeteria. Looking at the delicacies being served, Lu Xiaoyu's eyes lit up as she swallowed her saliva. Yi Qing Luo smiled helplessly. Sometimes she envied Lu Xiaoyu's attitude towards people. Just getting the last piece of delicious food would make her happy for a long time. A contented person is always happy. If everyone was like you, everyone would be able to live an easy life. Thinking of this, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Lu Xiaoyu was busy eating, and when she heard Yi Qing Luo's words, She raised her head and giggled. Suddenly, he recalled his motive for coming to look for Yi Qing Luo. She put down the delicacies in her hands and leaned towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Right. Do you know about the matter of the interclass competition being brought forward? Yes. Yi Qing Luo had also guessed the reason why Lu Xiaoyu was looking for her. As expected, Lu Xiaoyu asked, "Don't you find it strange that the interclass competition was brought forward?" "What's strange about it?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she looked at her. Lu Xiaoyu frowned and muttered, "Although I don't know what's strange. Why did the dean suddenly hold the competition 5 months in advance? And they even want to do a class test." She paused and said mysteriously, "I've asked my old classmates who have been studying in the academy. In all these years, such a thing has never happened." Speaking up to this point, Lu Xiaoyu looked around and immediately lowered her voice. "The dean must have a reason for doing this, right? What do you think it is?" Yi Qing Luo remained silent. There were some things that she couldn't say for the time being. If she said it now, it would ruin things instead. Towards director's action, although Yi Qing Luo wasn't able to guess the reason behind it. However, he was certain that it was closely related to the King of Darkness. There should be an even greater secret hidden within. Thinking in this way, Yi Qing Luo was happy to see it happen. She did not know how the mysterious yin qi in her body had entered her body. If it happened again, she really didn't know if she could control herself. One could tell just by looking at Long Yunjian. If she did something that she would regret for the rest of her life, she would never be able to forgive herself. If the interclass competition was really brought forward because of the dark forces, perhaps she could take this opportunity to get some clues. I think it's good this way, too, to let everyone gain some experience. Yi Qing Luo elegantly raised her teacup and sipped a mouthful of tea as she gave a faint smile. After all, this is the Academy's large-scale competition. After the test, we will then be allowed to take part in the competition, which will reduce the number of casualties. Lu Xiaoyu shook her head. She still felt that there was something wrong. A woman's intuition had always been very accurate. It was better to be more careful. Yi Qing Luo only gave a slight smile and didn't explain her thoughts. The reason why they joined the competition was to let the students of Devil Class get rid of the title of trash, so that they would not have to hide anymore. To the Devil Class, this was a very good opportunity. They could make use of this opportunity to openly tell the others that they were not trash. Qing Luo, do you still insist on taking part in this competition? Lu Xiaoyu asked worriedly. Lu Xiaoyu's worries weren't groundless. After all, there were numerous pairs of eyes staring at Yi Qing Luo, waiting to see her make a fool of herself. Yi. And Luo, Yi Qi, Xiaoyu said. Chapter 988. This battle was not only for Devil Class, but also for Shangguan Lu Li's actions. She wanted to get back at them for what they had done. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as a chilly glint flashed past her eyes. A kind horse would be ridden by others, and a kind person would be bullied. Yi Qing Luo wasn't willing to be bullied. It was time to settle Shangguan Lu Li's debts, and she would not be soft-hearted. The tea in her hands had already turned cold. Yi Qing Luo swept a glance and casually placed it aside. Now Yi Qing Luo didn't have any appetite because she felt that after this interclass competition, there might be a chance to come into contact with the Lord from the dark forces. How to grasp the propriety and whether it would implicate some people. That was something that was still unknown. Qing Luo, then do you have confidence in this assessment? Lu Xiaoyu saw that she had already made up her mind and could only dispel the thought of dissuading her. Yi Qing Luo understood Lu Xiaoyu's worries. In the eyes of outsiders, this assessment's regulations were indeed too harsh for Devil Class. According to the assessment's regulations, every class must have at least 10 students who pass the assessment. But based on Devil Class's situation, whether they could gather 10 students to pass the assessment was still a problem. At least from Lu Xiaoyu's perspective, 10 students who passed the assessment was an astronomical figure to Devil class. If the number of students was not enough, then what should Yiqing Luo do? Wouldn't Devil class be ridiculed by the entire academy's students again? Yiqing Luo had yet to reply when Shangguan Lu Li happened to pass by. Shangguan Lu Li apparently heard Lu Xiaoyu's words, as she instantly stopped in her tracks. She swept a disdainful glance at Yiqing Luo and immediately ridiculed. "Humph, you still want to stand out in that kind of waste class? Devil classes waste have no chance of passing the assessment. But you might have a chance, but what can you do alone? Shangguan Lu Li, what did you eat today? Your mouth is so smelly." Lu Xiaoyu stood up suddenly as she retorted angrily. Shangguan Lu Li stared at her and continued, "I'm telling the truth. Ask Yiqing Luo, other than her. Who else can pass the assessment?" Lu Xiaoyu instantly wilted as she braced herself to continue staring at Shangguan Lu Li, but she couldn't say a single word. What Shangguan Lu Li said was right. The Devil class was indeed worrying. If Yiqing Luo was in any other class, then without a doubt, she would easily stand out from the rest. But Devil class's side was stuck by one rule. "Yiqing Luo, I advise you to dispel this thought. If you kneel down and beg me now, then I can still consider canceling our bet." The minute Shangguan Lu Li saw Lu Xiaoyu wilting, she immediately spoke out arrogantly to Yiqing Luo. "What bet? What kind of bet do you have?" Lu Xiaoyu heard something wrong in his words and frowned in confusion. Shangguan Lu Li's face was filled with a cold smile as she arrogantly raised her head. "Student Yi took the initiative to make a bet with me. If Devil class is unable to obtain first place in the interclass competition, she will cripple her profound heart jade and cripple the tendons and meridians in her limbs." Lu Xiaoyu slammed the table and stood up. Her pretty face was full of anger. She rushed to Shangguan Lu Li and grabbed her collar fiercely. "Shangguan Lu Li, what nonsense are you spouting? This is a bet which she personally set. What has it got to do with me?" Shangguan Lu Li patted the hand in front of her chest as a faintly discernible black qi flashed past her eyes. "Let go!" Chapter 989. Ask her yourself. Shangguan Lu Li looked down at her collar, which was being clenched tightly. The darkness in her eyes grew thicker. "She even made a blood oath with me, this kind of bet. If she is not willing, how can I force her?" Lu Xiaoyu's face suddenly turned pale. Blood oath. "Xiaoyu, let her go." Yiqing Luo glanced at the profound yin qi in Shangguan Lu Li's eyes and stretched out her hand to pull Lu Xiaoyu away. Lu Xiaoyu saw that Yiqing Luo did not refute. Obviously, this matter was true. She clenched her fists and was pulled back a few steps by Yiqing Luo, biting her lower lip tightly. Blood oath cannot be cancelled, which meant that if Yiqing Luo was unable to win, her meridians would be broken and her profound jade heart destroyed. Facing Shangguan Lu Li's complacent expression, Yiqing Luo totally ignored it. She directly pulled Lu Xiaoyu back to her seat. "Little foodie, don't you love the cafeteria's roast duck? Eat more." After saying that, she picked up the cold tea on the table and took a sip. Her brows were calm and composed, as if she had not heard Shangguan Lu Li's words. "Yiqing Luo, you can't be arrogant for long. I'm waiting for you to break your meridians and cripple your profound energy." Shangguan Lu Li's face turned green as she said fiercely. Yiqing Luo put down the teacup and pretended to be surprised as she turned her head to ask Lu Xiaoyu, "Xiaoyu, do you smell something? Why is it so smelly?" Lu Xiaoyu was also stunned for a moment before she regained her senses and looked at Shangguan Lu Li with a smile. "Probably someone's mouth is too smelly." Yiqing Luo Lu Xiaoyu, just you wait. Shangguan Lu Li was fuming with anger. If it wasn't for the fact that fighting was prohibited in the academy, she would have hit them directly. Just at this moment, Shangguan Fengyi walked over from afar and pulled Shangguan Lu Li's arm. "Third brother, Shangguan Liuli was filled with anger as she shouted angrily at Shangguan Fengyi, "These two are bullying me!" Shangguan Fengyi took a look at Yi Qing Luo, pulled Shangguan Liuli's arm and leaned to his side and said in a deep voice, "Student Yi, I have something to ask you." "No comment," he answered without hesitation, not giving any face to Guan Fengyi. "Yi Qing Luo you." Shangguan Liuli was instantly infuriated as the black qi in her eyes started to thicken. Shangguan Fengyi grabbed her in time and pressed down on her shoulders. "Fifth sister, don't mess around for now. I have questions to ask her." Seeing the serious expression on Shangguan Fengyi's face, Shangguan Liuli pouted and shook off his hand. She kicked the chair beside her and stood there sulking. Shangguan Fengyi had no time to care about his sister's feelings. His vision was fixated on Yi Qing Luo without blinking as he lowered his voice. "The god relic which you obtained in King Ling's tomb, has it formed a blood pact with you?" Yi Qing Luo raised her eyelids and swept a glance at Shangguan Fengyi as her lips curled up in ridicule. "Why, without the blood pact, you're preparing to snatch it." These words also made it clear that the divine artifact was with her. He didn't hide it anywhere else or hand it over to the Overlord for safekeeping. It was on her body. Since she dared to directly expose it, Yi Qing Luo had no intention of being afraid. After the battle in King Ling's tomb, Shangguan Fengyi definitely wouldn't dare to easily make a move on her, unless he didn't want to live anymore. No, you've misunderstood." Shangguan Fengyi's brows creased. He despised the act of fawning on Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 990. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled as her eyes were filled with ridicule. "What if we form a blood pact?" "Then, on behalf of the Shangguan family, I sincerely invite you to become the elder of the Shangguan family." Buffed. Yi Qing Luo almost spat out a mouthful of tea. Elder? Did she look old? The elder of the Shangguan family can enjoy all the rights and interests of the Shangguan family and can mobilize all the troops of the Shangguan family and anyone in the Shangguan family other than the patriarch. Shangguan Fengyi deliberately slowed down his tone when he said the last sentence, probing Yi Qing Luo's expression. Shangguan Liuli, who was standing behind him, had a change of expression as she cried out in disbelief, "Third brother! What are you talking about? Anyone other than father? Didn't that include her? Let Yi Qing Luo order her around? Was Shangguan Fengyi crazy? This is father's order. Shut up." Shangguan Fengyi shook off Shangguan Liuli's hand as he lowered his voice and berated her sternly. Shangguan Liuli bit her lips tightly as her eyes were filled with tears, filled with grievance. Shangguan Fengyi had no time to care about her emotions. He turned to Yi Qing Luo with a fawning smile on his face. "What does student Yi think?" Yi Qing Luo faintly curled her lips as her charming eyes overflowed with ridicule. "The Shangguan family has put in a lot of effort for the power of the divine relic." Shangguan Fengyi smiled even more flatteringly. "Yes, this represents the sincerity of the Shangguan family in cooperating with student Yi." "Then, my answer is..." Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved as a trace of ridicule flashed past. Just at this moment, Shangguan Fengyi groaned inexplicably as he almost knelt on the ground. He held his chest as his face turned pale as a sheet as he tottered. Shangguan Liuli was still sulking when she heard Shangguan Fengyi's voice and immediately regained her senses. She saw Shangguan Fengyi clutching his chest in pain while Yi Qing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu had already stood up and walked towards another direction. "Yi Qing Luo, you're despicable." That undetectable murderous intent earlier, although it was just a flash. But Shangguan Liuli clearly felt that it was Yi Qing Luo who secretly hurt him. "Yi Qing Luo." Shangguan Liuli furiously pointed at Yi Qing Luo. "You dare to make a move on my third brother in public." Yi Qing Luo turned her head over and laughed lightly. "Which eye of yours saw me making a move? Ask the students around you. Did I do anything?" The surrounding students shuddered and moved back a little. On one side was Yi Qing Luo who was currently in the limelight and was being spread around like a god. On the other side were the young masters and young mistresses of the Shangguan family. It would be wrong for them to speak up for either side. Speak. Was she the one who did it? Shangguan Liuli's arrogant and spoiled temperament immediately surged in her heart. Apart from her, who else can hurt my third brother? After being forced into a corner, the students stammered in fear. I really didn't see Student Yi make a move. Why did Student Shangguan do this? It might not necessarily be related to Student Yi. They were only telling the truth. With so many pairs of eyes watching, Yi Qing Luo indeed had no signs of making a move. If he could injure Shangguan Fengyi without moving, unless he used his profound qi. But the academy was equipped with profound qi scanning devices. If Yi Qing Luo were to use her profound qi, she would definitely be discovered by the academy. Could it be? Shangguan Fengyi intentionally wanted to frame Yi Qing Luo? This thought flashed past the students' minds. One by one, they nodded in agreement. There was a huge possibility of this. Chapter 991. Shangguan Fengyi, who was being looked at suspiciously by many students, couldn't say anything even if he wanted to. Inexplicably, his chest seemed to have been struck by something. The impact almost made her vomit out her internal organs. However, he had no idea what it was that had struck his chest. Indeed, they didn't see Yi Qing Luo make a move. But it was absolutely Yi Qing Luo. Other than Yi Qing Luo, no one else could hurt him without leaving a trace. This was Yi Qing Luo's answer? Unwilling to hand over the power of the divine artifact? Shangguan Fengyi frowned, and a trace of ruthlessness appeared in his eyes. Yi Qing Luo scoffed disapprovingly and turned around to leave with Lu Xiaoyu. Shangguan Liuli flew into a rage out of humiliation as she took quick steps forward to block Yi Qing Luo's path. Yi Qing Luo! You were the one who attacked my third brother. Don't even think about denying it. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you have a divine artifact? This was an academy. Attacking a fellow student is a violation of the academy rules. Yi Qing Luo looked at her with a smile which didn't look like a smile. You said Qing Luo had violated the academy's regulations. Show us the evidence. If you don't have any evidence, what are you talking about? Lu Xiaoyu snorted coldly, not giving Shangguan Liuli any face. Do you have any evidence? Let's go to the faculty council together. Ask the faculty council to investigate if the injuries on my third brother were caused by you. If they were to announce that Yi Qing Luo had violated the academy's regulations, directly asking the students to expel her, Devil Class would not be able to participate in the interclass competition. Then he would not be able to win. With their blood oath, she would definitely win. Thinking of this, Shangguan Liuli became more aggressive as she grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm and pulled her towards the entrance of the cafeteria. Her mouth kept shouting that she wanted to drag Yi Qing Luo to the faculty council. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as her brows creased slightly and was about to shake Shangguan Liuli off. But she heard an extremely dignified voice coming from the cafeteria entrance. Student Yi Qing Luo, is Student Yi Qing Luo around? The one who entered was the headmaster, dressed in a white robe. The students immediately bowed respectfully. Elder Yun Jin. This was the third elder who was ranked behind Yun Xiang, Yun Jin. Yi Qing Luo and the others were extremely eye-catching. The minute Yun Jin entered, she saw Yi Qing Luo. Student Yi Qing Luo, the director invites you over. Yun Jin didn't bother about what had happened in the cafeteria as he directly followed the director's instructions to look for Yi Qing Luo and pass on the news. Everyone was startled when they heard this. Yun Jin's gaze calmly brushed past Shangguan Liuli's hand. Director invites student Yi Qing Luo to the director's office. Don't let him wait for too long. Yi Qing Luo's hand, which was about to shake off, stopped as her brows creased even tighter. The dean was looking for her? Could it be because of the divine artifact? In the tomb of the Ling King, he met a few people from the dark forces. Their target was the divine artifact. Moreover, the dark forces had stolen her profound heart jade, and now it had returned to its rightful owner. The dean was probably under the orders of the King of Darkness to come and find out more about the divine weapon, as well as other motives. Hey, Shangguan Liuli, did you hear that the director wants to invite Qing Luo to the director's office? Why aren't you letting go? Do you want to follow her to the director's office? To look for the director, to sort things out? Lu Xiaoyu saw that Shangguan Liuli still refused to let go of Yi Qing Luo's hand. She stretched out her hand and grabbed hold of their hands, using all her might to pry them apart. Shangguan Liuli was violently pulled apart as she staggered backwards for a few steps, coincidentally knocking into Shangguan Fengyi. Shangguan Fengyi was knocked into again as his chest felt stuffy, and at the next instant, a trickle of blood started to flow out from the corner of his mouth. However, at this moment, no one bothered about whether Shangguan Fengyi was injured or not. Chapter 992. Let's go. Yi Qing Luo patted the wrist, which was held by Shangguan Liuli, as she squinted her eyes and said indifferently. Yun Jin led the way as Yi Qing Luo followed closely behind. This time round, Shangguan Liuli didn't dare to stop her. She could only allow Yi Qing Luo to leave. Shangguan Fengyi and Shangguan Liuli's faces were steely green as they gritted their teeth and swallowed their anger. Director's office. Yi Qing Luo had just walked in when Yun Jin left. There was only the director alone in the director's office. Seeing Yi Qing Luo enter, the director raised his hand and indicated for her to sit opposite. In front of him, there was already a cup of fragrant tea. Yi Qing Luo swept a glance at the tea as a gloomy glint flashed past her eyes. Following that, she raised her eyes and gazed at the director's direction as her lips curled. "Director is looking for me. What's the matter?" The director's sharp gaze stared at Yi Qing Luo as though he wanted to see a sliver of fear from her eyes. But there was no emotion at all. That pair of narrow eyes were filled with indifference. The dean's eyes flickered slightly, and he did not beat around the bush. "I heard that you led the mercenary group you established to the tomb of the Ling King during your holiday, and you got entangled with the dark forces." Yi Qing Luo raised her brows in astonishment. The director actually took the initiative to mention the dark forces. Could it be that he was prepared to lay his cards on the table? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as her fingers caressed the azure dew ring on her fingertip, ready to summon Chi-Chi anytime. Immediately following that, the director continued, "I've also heard about the matter of King Ling's tomb. You're just a student, and yet you've caused such a huge sensation." He paused as he restrained the sharpness in his eyes and smiled. "Your innate talent and ability is the most outstanding student I've ever met since I became the director. Even the class of gods can't match up to you." Yi Qing Luo didn't reply. She didn't understand the intention of the director's praise. "Student Yi, are you interested in joining the class of gods?" The next sentence made Yi Qing Luo stunned. Last time, the instructors jointly requested the director to transfer her to the class of gods. The director still had an unwilling look. Now he actually brought it up. Could it be? Was he trying to use the class of gods to make a deal with her? Then the headmaster said in a sincere and heartfelt tone, "Student Yi, although you are very strong, you are still a student after all. You should still focus on your studies. In the next few days, I'll arrange for you to enter the class of gods. That way, when you participate in the inter-class competition, you'll definitely win." When Yi Qing Luo heard this, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. He was a dignified headmaster, but he was actually concerned about whether she could win the inter-class competition. In other words, he knew about the bet between her and Shangguan Liuli. Her smile made the director mistakenly thought that Yi Qing Luo was moved by his suggestion. The dean's smile grew warmer. "That's settled then. Student Yi, I'll have a teacher from the class of gods come to pick you up in a moment." Not waiting for Yi Qing Luo to reply, he continued, "After entering the class of gods, in order to catch up with the progress of the class, You still have to take part in the ability assessment and the interclass competition. The time after that, you will be extremely busy. You're just a student. There are a lot of things that can't be placed on you alone. Student E, if you hand over the people from the Dark faction to the Academy will definitely protect your safety. This was the director's motive? Did he want those people from the Dark faction who she had captured to hand over to the director to handle? Chapter 993. Indeed. What ability assessment? Bringing forward the interclass competition, joining the class of gods. All these were just for a dignified reason, to save those dark forces, people from her hands. Director was someone from the dark forces. She handed those people who were imprisoned in the old mansion over to Director. Wasn't that releasing the tiger back into the mountain? Looked like. Leopard Saint Skill, indeed, knew quite a number of secrets from the dark forces. Otherwise, why would Director spend so much effort to think of ways to get those people from the dark forces in her hands? Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed past a cold glint, but her lips curled into a smile. No need to trouble Director. Those people from the dark forces had their profound jade heart and 4 limbs crippled by my mercenary group's mercenaries, and after 2 days of torture, they are all dead. While she was speaking, her expression didn't change at all. This kind of matter, to her, was very common. So calm that she didn't seem like a 15-year-old young lady. Dead. Director creased his brows suspiciously, as though he didn't believe it. Yi Qing Luo met Director's eyes in puzzlement. Don't tell me Director doesn't wish for those evildoers to die. Of course I hope so. Director was suddenly questioned and his eyes flickered. But how could they die so easily? Then did the people from the dark forces reveal any news? Mentioning this point, Yi Qing Luo sighed softly and shook her head. They were stubborn, so the mercenaries increased the punishment. Who knew? They couldn't take the torture. Director didn't say another word. His dark and gloomy eyes gazed deeply at Yi Qing Luo, as though he was trying to find a trace of lying from her expression. However, Yi Qing Luo remained emotionless. Meeting Director's gaze for some time, Yi Qing Luo intentionally changed the topic. But in King Ling's tomb, I heard someone called Guardian Eagle saying something about the dark forces. As expected, when the 3 words Guardian Eagle was mentioned, Director's expression congealed. What did he say? Nothing much, just that he was fighting with someone called Elder Xiong. They quarreled and said, the Lord of the Dark Forces wanted the divine relic. Everyone knew clearly what the motive of the dark forces was. Yi Qing Luo also borrowed the topic of the divine relic to print out the word his lordship. Killing each other? The dean murmured in a low voice, although he did not show it on his face. But that smear of panic and astonishment in his eyes didn't escape Yi Qing Luo's eyes. She squinted her eyes and said, that's right. Protector Ing and Elder Xiong killed themselves so that I could have the chance to obtain the divine weapon. I should be grateful to them. Dead? The dean almost couldn't sit still. He suddenly stood up and placed his hands on the table in front of him. He tried his best to control his emotions and pretended that nothing had happened. But Yi Qing Luo, who was clear of everything, was very clear of the director's current thoughts. All along, the one who had been in contact with the dean was Guardian Ing. Protector Ing must have made use of the principal's desire to work for the King of Darkness. Time and time again, he ordered the principal to take away a student's soul. Guardian Ing had yet to bring the dean to meet the King of Darkness. He died just like that. The headmaster's many years of hard work would also be destroyed with Guardian Ying's death. And now the person who was in contact with the dean had changed to Saint Law, which meant that the hard work that the dean had put in these few years had to be overturned and started all over again. Chapter 994. A moment later, the principal clenched his fists tightly. His expression was as stern as ever. The dark forces are too rampant. As the dean of the academy, I will definitely protect my students. Student E, don't worry, you'll be safe in the academy. It was precisely because they were in the academy that she felt unsafe. Yi Qing Luo's heart was filled with sincerity, but her face was all smiles. Thank you, Director, for your concern. If there's nothing else, I'll return to Devil class first. I still have to prepare for the ability assessment. The headmaster concealed the deep meaning in his eyes and slightly raised his white eyebrows. He understood the meaning behind her words. You don't want to go to the class of gods. No, Yi Qing Luo replied without hesitation. President Ling stared at her in astonishment. Countless students racked their brains to get into the class of gods, hoping to be called a genius among geniuses. Yi Qing Luo had 2 such opportunities, but he gave up again and again. The dean felt that since he had been the dean for so many years, his ability to judge people was definitely not bad. But he couldn't see through a 15-year-old girl. It was no wonder that his lord valued her so much. Thinking till here, the dean's gaze deepened as he stared at her. Since Student Yi has already made up her mind, I won't stop you. If Student Yi likes the devil class, then stay in the devil class. After a pause, he changed the topic. I still have a question for Student Yi. Director, please speak. Yi Qing Luo openly met his gaze. I heard that in the battle against the dark forces in the tomb of the Ling King, not only did Student Yi use the power of the divine weapon, but she also used the ancient divine dragon and the holy beast, the white tiger. Is that true? The dean narrowed his eyes and enunciated each word clearly. His gaze seemed as though he wanted to take in every minute expression on Yi Qing Luo's face. Yi Qing Luo calmly raised her brows as her long and narrow eyes rose slightly. Yes, if it wasn't for Blue Dragon and White Tiger's help, I wouldn't be able to come back alive. How did you manage to get the help of the Holy Beast and the Divine Dragon? The headmaster could not help but frown slightly when he saw her speaking so casually. The former Yi Qing Luo was famous for being a waste. Of course, it was very possible that she had purposely hidden her strength. However, he had never seen any traces of sacred beasts or divine dragons. Then she entered the Heavenly Academy. She had always been in the academy, acting under his watch. When did she contract with a holy beast and a divine dragon? Yi Qing Luo smiled. During the holidays, I casually picked them up, and after that, they have been following me. Pick it up? How could a divine dragon be so easily picked up? How could a sacred beast be so easy to pick up? The dean's eyebrows twitched. He knew that this female student wasn't someone who could be easily fooled by other students. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to pry information out of her mouth. Protector Ying's death made him lose all other thoughts at this moment. Then he waved his sleeves and said, "You can go now. Train well and try to pass the strength test." Yi Qing Luo stood up and left with a faint smile. Just as he reached the door, he heard the dean's voice again. Right, Student Yi, in order to ensure the fairness of the test and class competition, during the test and competition, you're not allowed to use the power of battle pets like the Divine Dragon and White Tiger, nor are you allowed to activate the power of divine artifacts. I know. Right from the start, Yi Qing Luo had no intention to use this heaven-defying power on Heavenly Academy students. Divine weapon, sacred beast. It was a life-saving trump card in a critical moment. Moreover, there was a surge of restless, profound yin qi existing in her body which she was unable to capture. She didn't dare to use too much power. Walking out of the headmaster's office, Yi Qing Luo closed her eyes. Now, she wanted to cast aside all distracting thoughts. Chapter 995. The ability assessment was arranged to be half a month before the interclass competition, which was the beginning of the month, which was the 3 days of holidays. Yi Qing Luo could roughly guess. The 3 days of holidays was actually the time for the King of Darkness to offer his soul. In order to cover up for the dark forces, every single holiday, Heavenly Academy would clear all the internal staff. Even the elders were not allowed to stay in the academy. Whereas in other academies, even if it was a holiday, one could choose to stay in the academy. It was enough to tell that there was something fishy going on during Heavenly Academy's holidays. This time round, they actually sacrificed the holiday of offering their soul to hold the ability assessment. What was the Dark Forces trying to do? These guesses were currently unable to get an answer. Only after the ability assessment, or after the interclass competition, would they find out. In the following time, Yi Qing Luo threw herself into training the students. In the past training, these students were already complaining incessantly. This time round's training was even more rigorous than before. It could be said to be a hellish training, until everyone's daily time, other than lying on the ground, was to train with all their might. When they were so tired that they were half dead, Bai Ming Lulu had refined out some medicinal pills. Consuming one pill, the depleted energy in their body would be replenished once again. But the energy in their body could be replenished. But after a long period of battle and training, the exhaustion in their bodies was still clearly felt. But no matter how tough or tiring it was, they would absolutely not utter a single word. After 7 days of training, Yan Xiaoyi, who had consumed the antidote which Ghost Doctor had refined, returned to the team. But Yi Qing Luo's training for her didn't make her participate in the training forcefully. Yan Xiaoyi, who had just detoxified, was much weaker than usual. Most importantly, Yan Xiaoyi's poison was specially made by the Dark Forces, Dark 3 Evil Flower. The minute Yi Qing Luo thought of the unstable, profound yin qi in her body, she was worried that Yan Xiaoyi would be the same. This time round's ability assessment, Yi Qing Luo also rejected Yan Xiaoyi's participation. My body is really fine now. I also want to contribute to the devil class. Yan Xiaoyi was unable to accept this suggestion. Qing Luo, I know you're worried about me, but I know my own body best. I also believe in Master Ghost Doctor's medical skills. Yi Qing Luo sighed. She knew that the poison in Yan Xiaoyi's body had indeed been cleansed cleanly. However, she was still worried about the Dark Forces. Yi Qing Luo was totally unable to guess the Dark Forces' methods. He was obsessed with Long Yunjian, one of her. Yi Qing Luo didn't want Yan Xiaoyi to become the third sex addict, even if it was just a guess. However, it was better to be safe than sorry. By the time Yan Xiaoyi really got infected by the profound yin qi from the darkness 3 demon flowers backlash, everything would be too late. Xiaoyi, the strength test is only a small test, it's insignificant. What's important is the interclass competition. That's the most important match for us. During the testing period, you should recuperate your body. When the interclass competition starts, you will be the main force of the devil class. Yi Qing Luo patted Yan Xiaoyi's shoulder lightly. I'll let Jinzi accompany you. Yan Xiaoyi's eyelashes trembled slightly, as though she had been convinced by Yi Qing Luo. But when she heard Yi Qing Luo's last sentence, her quick-witted, beautiful eyes suddenly blinked, as she looked straight at the young man standing behind Yi Qing Luo. Qiao Jin was looking at Yan Xiaoyi with a face filled with worry, as he agreed with what Yi Qing Luo said. Chapter 996. Qiao Jin's face suddenly flushed red. He subconsciously avoided Yan Xiaoyi's gaze as his back faced her as he walked towards the other direction, afraid that Yan Xiaoyi would see the slight blush on his face, afraid that Yan Xiaoyi would find out that he had taken advantage of her while she was unconscious. However, this turn of events, in Yan Xiaoyi's eyes, there was another meaning. A trace of sadness flashed across her clear and beautiful eyes. It was concealed extremely well, disappearing in a flash. Following that, her red lips moved slightly as her voice was icy cold, without any emotion. The person he wants to accompany isn't me. I don't need him to accompany me. Saying that, she turned her head and left without even turning her head back. The green and white academy uniform floated with the wind, as though it set off a green ripple, as though a green lotus was slowly blooming. Yi Qing Luo opened her mouth, but eventually pursed her pink lips tightly as she looked towards Qiao Jin's direction. Qiao Jin heard Yan Xiao Yi's words very clearly just now. He was stunned by that sentence. Seeing Yan Xiao Yi turning around to leave, he subconsciously lifted his leg to chase after her. But after taking a few steps, he felt that his actions seemed a little strange. He stood in a daze, not knowing what to do. What are you still in a daze for? Go. Yi Qingluo really wanted to knock open Qiao Jin's head to see what was in it. Usually he looked rather astute. Why was he so slow in terms of feelings? Qiao Jin responded to her and chased after Yan Xiao Yi's direction in a daze. Yan Xiao Yi pursed her lips tightly as her face was filled with sullen anger. She strode over to the class committee room and lifted her leg to push open the class committee room's door. She had just entered the class committee room when Qiao Jin followed closely behind. Yan Xiao Yi shot a cold glance at him as she said indifferently, "Qiao Jin, why are you following me? I said I don't need you to accompany me." Qiao Jin's brows creased as he carefully stared at Yan Xiao Yi's expression, taking small steps to her side. After he sat down, he realized that he was actually looking at Yan Xiao Yi's expression. Instantly, a man's mentality surged up in his heart as he stared at Yan Xiao Yi, pretending to be relaxed. "I'm not here to accompany you." Yan Xiao Yi sneered as her lips curled upwards in self-ridicule. How long was she going to continue to be sentimental? She lowered her eyes and did not speak again. He just sat quietly on his desk, took out a book and began to read. Qiao Jin, who had been neglected, did not feel good. Women are strange creatures. He had no idea what a woman was thinking. He was inexplicably angry. He was inexplicably ignoring her. Moreover, she didn't seem to notice that he had secretly hugged her. The silent atmosphere became increasingly strange. This lasted for the time it took for half an incense stick to burn. Qiao Jin finally couldn't restrain himself as he clenched his fists tightly and inched towards Yan Xiao Yi's direction. "Yan, the person you want to accompany is not me, I know." Yan Xiao Yi lifted her eyes and looked at him coldly. "So, go and accompany the person you want to accompany. Don't disturb me." "You are the one I want to accompany." The words that he wanted to say were stuck in his throat. Qiao Jin scratched his head, feeling a little frustrated with his current feelings. What was going on? Why was it that when he was facing Yan Xiao Yi he had a strange feeling? His mind and body were completely out of his control. Yan Xiao Yi saw that he didn't speak and only took it as a tacit agreement. A hint of pain flashed across her eyes as she immediately put down the book in her hands. "If you're not leaving, I'll leave." With that said, she stood up and wanted to leave. Her wrist was suddenly grabbed by a large palm. Chapter 997. His strong and powerful hand suddenly exerted force. Yan Xiao Yi was pressed against the wall with a bam. Qiao Jin's scorching hot body came crashing down. He grabbed her wrist and forcefully pressed it against the wall, his gaze burning as he stared at her unblinkingly. "En? Say it." His breath sprayed on her face. On Yan Xiao Yi's expressionless face, there was a slight change in expression. She wanted to struggle, but she couldn't resist Qiao Jin's strength. He was still being overbearing. It was as if he wouldn't give up until he got the answer. Yan Xiao Yi's eyelashes trembled slightly as she slowly shifted her gaze away, her voice still cold. "The person you want to accompany is Miss Tao Tao, isn't it? She's in low profound class 1. If you want to see her, you can go over any time." "Tao Zi?" Qiao Jin frowned. When did he want to accompany Tao Zi? When did he say he wanted to see Tao Zi? When did he say he wanted to look for Tao Zi? What the hell was this woman babbling about? Yan Xiao Yi also frowned. Qiao Jin's hot body pressed against her delicate body tightly. The softness of her chest was also touched by his thick chest. However, Qiao Jin didn't notice it at all. He just followed his instinctive reaction, not wanting Yan Xiao Yi to leave just like that. "Get out of my way." Yan Xiao Yi couldn't bear it anymore as she gritted her teeth and raised her eyes, glaring at him fiercely. Qiao Jin's grip on her wrist tightened. That ordinary face that couldn't be considered handsome was now filled with a strong masculine charm, especially that pair of inky black eyes, as if it could absorb everything. Looking at it from this angle, Yan Xiao Yi only felt that she was about to sink into his pupils. Her heart suddenly beat faster. She panicked, not wanting Qiao Jin to see this little bit of emotion of hers. Pursing her red lips, she instinctively blurted out, "Qiao Jin, get out of my way! Since you like Tao Tao so much, why don't you go look for her? Why do you have to harass me? I don't want to see you. I hate MMPH." The slightly cold lips directly covered Yan Xiaoyi's lips. His kiss was very forceful, very jerky. Without any technique, he just blocked her lips randomly, not wanting her to say those hurtful words out of her mouth. Yan Xiaoyi was stunned. What was he doing? He actually kissed her? There was a faint pain coming from his lips. Qiao Jin was actually biting her lips without any restraint. Yan Xiaoyi was both annoyed and amused. In his heart, he was incomparably satisfied. His lack of finesse is proof that he is clean. This was his first kiss. It was also her first kiss. Yan Xiaoyi didn't struggle, but raised her head cooperatively. She wanted to wrap her arms around his body. However, Qiao Jin suddenly pushed her away and took a few steps back in panic. Yan Xiaoyi bumped into the wall. Her beautiful eyes were filled with charm as she looked at him in confusion. Qiao Jin's face was filled with shock as he bowed deeply towards her. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. Just pretend that today's events didn't happen. I didn't mean to do this." He did not look at Yan Xiaoyi's expression. Turning around, he left the class committee room as if he was escaping, leaving Yan Xiaoyi, whose face was gradually turning pale, alone in the class committee room, staring blankly at his back view as he left. What did he mean by this? Pretend that nothing happened? That kiss was just a spur of the moment. It didn't mean anything, right? He was very disgusted. Kissing her? The petite figure leaning against the wall slowly slid down, until finally she sat on the ground. She wrapped her arms around her knees and curled herself up. Chapter 998. In the following days, Devil Class's students obviously sensed the strangeness between Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi. In the past, whenever Yan Xiaoyi appeared, Qiao Jin would definitely be by her side. Beside Qiao Jin, Yan Xiaoyi would definitely be there. However, these few days, wherever Yan Xiaoyi appeared, Qiao Jin would definitely find an excuse to slip away. As time went by, Yan Xiaoyi simply stayed in Bai Minglu Lu's room, receiving Bai Minglu Lu's recuperation, not taking a single step out. Yi Qing Luo sensed their abnormality. She asked Qiao Jin, but didn't get any response. She only knew that something must have happened between the both of them. Since they didn't say anything, then only they themselves could resolve it. Many a time when it came to matters of the heart, other than herself, no one else could help her. Right now, the most important thing was the ability assessment was about to begin. The rules of the ability assessment were not much different from the Academy's entrance examinations. All of them entered the Heavenly Pagoda to undergo various abilities assessments. As it was a holiday, students from other academies and some famous people in the pugilistic world came to Heavenly Academy to spectate, whereas Supreme Master Mo, who was also DMO Xian, was invited to the main seat by the director. The director was seated on his right-hand side. Not long later, the entire Academy's students gathered at the Heavenly Public Square. Each class's first and second class stood separately. Shangguan Luli, who was standing at the intermediate profound class 2's position, raised her head, trying to search for Yi Qing Luo's figure. But after sweeping through the entire place, she didn't see Yi Qing Luo at all. Her gold powdered eyes revealed a complacent smile. Yi Qing Luo must be afraid, not daring to come. How would Devil Class dare to come? The assessment requires 10 students and above to be able to take part in the interclass competition. In their devil class, only Yi Qing Luo can do it, the others. To devil class, it's simply too difficult to gather 10 students who can pass the assessment. Now, they're so frightened that they don't dare to come out. The surrounding students all open their mouths, expressing their disdain and ridicule. Just at this moment, they heard a sound of cold air being sucked in. They saw Yi Qing Luo leading 9 people as she walked over slowly. The 9 of them were covered by a layer of black cloaks, concealing their entire bodies under the black cloaks. They looked timid, as if they had never seen such a big scene before. Seeing this kind of dressing, Shangguan Liuli directly mocked. Aya! Devil classes students are really smart. Knowing that they will be so embarrassed that they won't be able to see anyone, they specially covered their faces. Following that, she raised her voice. Yo, devil class still knows how to be shameless? Many students could not help but burst out laughing. Looking at this posture, it did seem like he was afraid of losing face. Director frowned and looked towards Yi Qing Luo's side. Student Yi, your devil class only has these students. I reckon that only these 9 students would dare to come out and make a fool of themselves. Shangguan Liuli continued, her tone filled with unconcealable mockery. Yi Qing Luo calmly raised her eyes. Her gaze was elegant and tranquil as she spat out every single word clearly. There are exactly 10 of us, that's enough. The students sucked in a breath of cold air. Devil class, that useless class actually dared to spout such nonsense? 10 people would be enough? They wanted to see how Yi Qing Luo was going to use 10 people to pass the ability assessment. In front of the spectators, Director repeated the rules of the ability assessment once again. Yi Qing Luo finally understood it. The reason why Director chose this day to conduct the ability assessment was to attract other students and cultivators to enter Heavenly Academy. Moreover, Supremo's identity was the evaluator from the main courtyard. Chapter 999. The competition officially kicked off. The Heavenly Pagoda was the treasure of the Heavenly Academy. With 4 masters in charge, the Heavenly Pagoda shone with golden light. This golden light was even more dazzling than the sun in the sky. In an instant, all the students standing on the plaza disappeared without a trace. The Heavenly Pagoda could split into many different spaces, and it could also cut the same space into countless pieces. Each piece was forged by the thoughts of the 4 masters who used the pagoda. The 4 masters looked at the Heavenly Pagoda that suddenly grew bigger and landed in the middle of the square, and their faces revealed a satisfied smile. The content of this test, after a few days of discussion among the upper-level masters, the checkpoints designed could be said to be very dangerous. The first checkpoint illusion would probably eliminate many people. Everyone has evil thoughts, and with a slight touch, evil thoughts will devour reason. As the saying goes, if the heavens want to kill someone, they must first make him mad. Inside the Heavenly Pagoda, the first test space was filled with yellow sand. The eyes that were hidden by the golden light gradually saw clearly. This was a golden desert. At this time, there were about 70 people in the desert. Looking at the badges on the uniforms, most of them were low profound class 1, and there were more than 10 intermediate profound class 1 and 2 students. This test is not an individual test. If we are all together, we won't have to worry about other situations. A low profound class student said with a sigh of relief. The other students nodded in agreement. But in fact, everyone's heart was hanging. If the students of each class were to gather together, it was very likely that they would be killed by other classes. On the surface, the group of people seemed harmonious, but in fact there was a turbulent undercurrent. They walked for about half an hour. What is this place? Why can't I see the end? Some students were tired from walking, looked at the endless front, and sat down on the ground. What is this? The ground was full of golden sand, and each grain of sand was shining brightly under the sun. Both hands were buried deep in the sand, and the feeling of metal rubbing against the palm. It's gold, pure gold. Someone suddenly shouted, jumped up, knelt on the golden sand, and held up a handful of golden sand with both hands. The golden sand slowly slid down through the gaps between his fingers. The student was filled with joy and shouted, "That's right! This touch, it's pure golden sand." As soon as this student finished speaking, some students who were obsessed with money immediately knelt on the golden sand and picked up the handful of golden sand. After confirming that it was indeed pure gold sand, he excitedly grabbed a handful of sand. If you have a bag, put it in your bag. If you don't have a bag, take off your clothes and put them in your clothes. Wait. Lu Xiaoyu frowned when she saw that her students were about to step forward. This is the heavenly pagoda. How could there be pure gold sand here? Something feels off. The other students did not dare to step forward. Even though he was envious of the golden sand, he still felt that something was amiss. The students who couldn't fit in their backpacks and started to take off their clothes to pack the golden sand didn't listen to the persuasion of the students beside them. Suddenly, a student let out a blood-curdling scream. Everyone turned their heads to look. They saw that the hands of the students who were packing the golden sand had been worn down by the flowing golden sand, leaving only white bones. The legs that were kneeling on the golden sand were also white bones or bloody. It was terrifying. Everyone was shocked. In the next second, the group of students who were attracted by the golden sand flashed and disappeared in front of everyone. Chapter 1000. At the same time, there was another group of people not far away. It was different from the other groups. There were only 10 people in this group. It was Yi Qing Luo and the rest. The youngster with the gold coin dart in his hand looked at the golden sand on the ground and immediately lifted the black gauze that blocked his vision, revealing a pair of shining eyes. The golden sand on the ground is full of gold. If I can use it to cast my gold coin dart can be upgraded. Just as he was about to bend down to pick up the golden sand, a cold voice came from above him. "Jin Zi, do you want to die?" Then a red feather fan slapped him on the head with a cool breeze, only to hear a paw sound. Qiao Jin's muddled brain instantly sobered up. Following that, cold sweat dripped down from his forehead as he scolded himself for being careless and almost fell into the trap. "Tell me, are you stupid?" Everything in the Heaven Pagoda is fake. You took it for real? This kind of situation kept happening in this desert. At least hundreds of students were lured by the golden sand, buried under the sand, and lost the qualification to take the test. Outside the pagoda, Master of Justice was tasting the best quality tea as he looked at the Heaven Pagoda full of golden light, his eyes full of ridicule. Elder Yun Duan stroked his white beard. "Isn't the content of this assessment a little too much?" Adding an array in the illusion, "This is to attract the inner demons." Yun Xiang disagreed. "No worries, otherwise we will die on the battlefield." Master of Justice's white brows raised slightly as he stared at another batch of students who were sent out, his eyes deeper. "How many people do you think will pass the first round?" Yun Duan said word by word, "Less than half." The dean sat on the high seat in the middle, his face cold as he stared at the pagoda without a word. His eyes were filled with a black storm, as if he was thinking about something. In the desert, Yi Qing Luo and the other 10 people had been moving in one direction. Suddenly, they heard someone calling out behind them, only to see 20 over students waving in their direction excitedly. Obviously, they had met their companions and wanted to join them. When they rushed forward, Yi Qing Luo could see from their badges. This was a small team from Intermediate Profound Class 2, and there were 7 students from Low Profound Class. When these people saw Yi Qing Luo, the joy on their faces instantly dissipated. Students of the Devil Class, a student from the Useless Class. Immediately, everyone's expression changed. Without saying a word, he walked past them and continued to walk forward. Partnering with a class of trash, he did not know what would happen in the golden sand desert in the next moment. Partnering with a class of trash, he would definitely be burdened to death. These 20 over students' actions didn't make Yi Qing Luo and the others furious. They didn't pay any attention to the 20 or so people and continued forward. The 20 or so people who were exhausted from all the walking suddenly felt their anger surging out. People from the devil class also dare to participate in the interclass competition. Only 10 students are participating in the test. What a joke. Yeah, they're obviously a bunch of trash. Trash should act like trash. Look at them. Don't they look like followers? Ha ha ha. Buffed followers? You think too highly of them. They're following behind us because they want to take advantage of the situation. They want us to explore the path ahead while they reap the benefits. Who knows? Maybe 1 or 2 of them will survive until the end under everyone's protection. Isn't that like a dog wagging its tail and begging for mercy? Chapter 1001. Shut up. A cold and sullen voice was heard as a slender lady with a black veil walked forward from behind Yi Qing Luo. Through the black veil, that pair of icy cold eyes seemed to have no emotions at all as she stared at them icily. The invisible viciousness and aura caused the 20-odd people to freeze. A waist class actually had someone with such a strong aura? They were actually scared stiff by a waist from the waist class till they didn't dare to speak? Why? You waste don't allow others to speak? Waste is waste. You devil class are all a bunch of waste. You don't have the ability and still want to put on a brave front, taking part in the interclass competition, still thinking of getting first place? What qualifications do you have to compete with high profound class students? Get first place? One of the students raised his voice in disbelief as he started laughing wildly. Don't make me laugh to death or I get first place? Don't you know that the class which gets first place in the interclass competition will represent Heavenly Academy to compete with other academies' classes? Just based on you? Don't throw our Heavenly Academy's face, all right. Pack, pack, pack. A few crisp slapping sounds were heard. Those students who were ridiculing felt a shadow flashing past their eyes as their faces flushed red. Faintly, they felt a strong burst of profound qi coming towards them. Their hearts were overwhelmed with shock as they held onto their red faces, staring at Yi Qing Luo in shock. But they saw Yi Qing Luo turning her head to look at the lady behind her. Zi Qing, don't be anxious, it's not the time yet. A slender jade hand patted on Tong Zi Qing's shoulder, suppressing the profound qi which was released from her body. A cool feeling followed that voice, cleansing Tong Zi Qing's vicious aura. There's something fishy about this golden desert. It's constantly enlarging the evil thoughts in our hearts, so it's better to leave as soon as possible. Saying that, her vision congealed towards Long Yunjian. Jean, look at Zi Qing. Everyone pay attention to adjusting your temperament. Long Yunjian indifferently walked up as he raised his hand and pressed on Tong Zi Qing's shoulder. Tong Zi Qing's petite body trembled as she stared blankly at Long Yunjian. The flame around her instantly dissipated as she obediently followed Long Yunjian as he retreated. Those 20 over students didn't know what they were muttering softly about. He could only stare at Yi Qing Luo with an ugly expression. They all felt that the person who slapped them earlier was Yi Qing Luo. After all, in devil class, only Yi Qing Luo alone had the ability to hurt them. Yi Qing Luo bypassed Long Yunjian and walked directly in front of everyone. Her slender fingers gently pointed at the crowd in front of her. That group of people's hearts trembled slightly. Some of the low-class students even took a few steps back, afraid that Yi Qing Luo would make a move again. Yi Qing Luo smiled as her charming eyes fixed on them. That side is the east. You guys head east. Then he pointed in another direction and said, "Let's head west." Saying that, Yi Qing Luo led the other 9 people and directly turned around, walking towards the direction which she had pointed out. The faces of the 20-odd students were ashen. They could only glare at their departing silhouettes. Yi Qing Luo and the rest walked out 100 meters away, and gradually they could no longer see those 20 over figures. And I Ruo Pan then scooted over to Yi Qing Luo's side in puzzlement as she raised her head and looked at the sun hanging in the sky. Qing Luo and the others. How did you know that is the east side? Other than the unmoving sun above our heads. There's nothing else to indicate the direction. I'm just making things up. Yi Qing Luo opened up her arms as she shrugged her shoulders. Chapter 1002. Qiao Jin exclaimed, What the? You said it so seriously, I even believed you. Long Yunjan's gaze looked at the surroundings indifferently as he spoke calmly. In the vast sea of sand, we can only keep moving forward to find the exit to the next round. This time you're too rash. No one knew what would happen in the next second in the sea of sand. They could only move forward to ensure their safety. But their rhythm was disrupted by those low profound class and intermediate profound class students. Yi Qing Luo lowered her head to look at the golden sand on the ground as she stepped on it and sank deep into it. The golden sand groped for their shoes as it gave off a rustling sound. Along the way, they saw numerous students being swallowed by the golden sand into white bones due to their greed towards the golden sand, failing the assessment. Immediately, Yi Qing Luo's mind cleared up as she seemed to have thought of something as she muttered to herself for a moment. I think the exit isn't in the surroundings, but under our feet. Everyone stopped in their tracks as they lowered their heads to look at the dazzling golden sand. The exit that we're looking for is right under this golden sand which corrodes human flesh. If I didn't guess wrongly, this should be an illusion zone, coupled with an illusory space which is constructed by an array which hooks people's evil thoughts. No matter how far we walk, we're actually going in circles on the same spot. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. Ever since they entered, she had an extremely strange feeling. That was a kind of estrangement feeling, as though the entire world and her were estranged. But, strictly speaking, this estrangement was started by her. This was a human sense of self-protection towards danger. The stronger the person, the stronger their sense of perception. But there was some overstatement in this, just like a woman's intuition. Some people, even if they weren't strong, their intuition was very strong. Yi Qing Luo's sense of perception had always been several times higher than ordinary people. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up as she looked at Long Yunjan. Ah, Zhan, carefully sense it. Do you have a strange feeling? Long Yunjan nodded as his azure blue eyes closed slightly. His profound heart jade slowly released its profound qi as it communicated with heaven and earth. Suddenly he opened his eyes and a ray of light flashed past his eyes as he said, Sense of isolation. Tong Ziqing also followed suit as she shut her eyes. After sensing for some time, she opened her eyes as her cold eyes swept past them. Sense of isolation? What sense of isolation? Why can't I feel it? Qiao Jin also quickly opened his eyes and nodded. That's right. Now that you've mentioned it, I've also felt a strange feeling. It's just that my feeling is rather weak. If I don't take the initiative to investigate, I think, I wouldn't be able to feel it. It seems that this kind of feeling can only be felt by people above the earth profound realm. Long Yunjan's expression was solemn. There are many people above the earth profound realm here. I think someone will notice us very soon. We have to be one step ahead of them. That's right. We must be one step ahead of the others and get first place. But how are we going to break the formation? And Rupin nodded in agreement. Yi Qing Luo stretched her waist. Now that we know where the exit is, isn't it easy to break the array? Just break it. The biggest weakness of the Golden Desert was the sense of isolation. As long as he focused his attention on the sense of isolation, he would definitely be able to break through the formation and enter the next stage. Zhan, Jinzi, the only ones above Earth-Xian are the three of us. Yi Qing Luo arranged. We'll first use Earth Profound Grade Profound Qi to sense the entrance of the isolation point. As long as we sever this link, we'll be able to sever this array. Chapter 1003. The sense of isolation came from the golden desert beneath her feet. The connection point must be somewhere beneath her feet. But Where on earth was it? Yi Qing Luo's perception was at its strongest as she stared at the desert beneath her feet. Suddenly, her mind recalled what Ni Ruopan said, the unmoving sun above her head. Right, the sun. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes abruptly as she used her hand to block her eyes as she gazed at that glaring sun. The entire golden desert, other than the ground filled with gold. There was only this sun in the sky, which was something created by the heavenly pagoda. This sun must be the crucial method to break the array. The sun gave off a scorching and glaring light, so piercing that Yi Qing Luo shut her eyes. Half squinting her eyes, she stared at the sun for a long time. Indeed, she discovered something strange. There seemed to be shadows in the sun. Many, many shadows. As she looked at it clearer, those shadows started to overlap. There were only 10 shadows left. Those 10 people. Wasn't it? Them. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased as she quickly reacted. In the sun were the shadows of all the students from the participating classes. So when she looked at the sun and examined the reflection of the sun, it would reflect the shadows of the 10 of them, which meant to say, the source of the sense of isolation was the sun. Right, she now felt this sense of isolation as though they were separated into another world. This world was the sun. The sun is the connection point of the separation. Yi Qing Luo's words had just ended when Qiao Jin and Long Yin Zhan flew up. Their figures speedily dashed towards the direction of the sun. The profound qi in their hands swiftly split that sun into pieces. When the 2 of them stood steadily on the ground, the entire golden desert was suddenly filled with a thin fog. There was no trace or outline of anything in the surroundings. Their first round, evil thoughts and greed, had passed. By the time the surrounding white fog dispersed, Yi Qing Luo and the rest then discovered that the group of them were in a dark and spacious underground palace. That's right. The space had changed into another one, which was the second round. When they surveyed their surroundings, a sliver of astonishment flashed past their eyes. This underground palace was built with huge blue stones, and the ground was covered with moss. The space here was huge, and those students who were forced to enter the Golden Desert were all standing here like terracotta soldiers. However, these students all had different expressions. Some people's faces were calm, while others were deathly pale. Some people's eyelids twitched as if they were about to wake up, while others' foreheads were dripping with cold sweat. What kind of space did the heavenly pagoda create? Qiao Jin stared at those students, a trace of ruthlessness flashing across his eyes. Are we going to make a move now? To be honest, after entering the heavenly pagoda, Qiao Jin's emotions had been on the verge of exploding. Thus, in the golden desert, he was corroded by evil thoughts and wanted to take away the golden sand. Ever since he had forcefully kissed Yan Xiaoyi that day, he had been thinking about that kiss and the hug that day. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. The more chaotic it was, the more he wanted to escape. The emotions that had accumulated in the bottom of his heart were ready to be unleashed. He really wanted to have a good fight to vent the emotions in his heart. Yi Qing Luo squinted at him as her palm placed on his shoulder. A surge of dark force overflowed from his palm. This surge of profound energy was like a clear spring flowing into Qiao Jin's heart. Chapter 1004. The few of them nodded when they heard that. The 10 of them carefully bypassed those people and came to a huge door. There were 2 candles on both sides of the door. There were 2 arm-thick candles on the candles. These 2 candles weren't burning with ordinary flames, but a dark green flame like ghost fire, illuminating the door with a faint green glow. As for the 2 doors, they were covered in red paint. The door was 6 to 7 meters high, and above the door were 2 golden lion titles hanging with a golden ring. Looking up, there was a plaque. On the huge plaque, there were golden words, "Gates of Hell." And Ruo Pan's eyes widened. Gates of Hell? It's recorded in the books that the gates of hell is the door to the netherworld, and only dead people can enter. Moreover, the miasma grows and there are many mosquitoes, rats and ants. In the night, it's shrouded by a white fog and the birds are wailing. It's terrifying. Speaking of this, and Ruo Pan shuddered. Tong Ziqing's cold eyes swept past that strange door as she frowned. Don't tell me we're dead! Yi Qing Luo shook her head. Impossible. Even if someone has the intention to kill us, those masters and elders outside the heavenly pagoda will absolutely not sit idly by. She walked up and tried to push the door, but the door didn't budge. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she tried to pull the door, but it still didn't budge. She didn't know what material this door was made of. It seemed as heavy as 1,000 caddies, and no matter how much strength she used, she couldn't open it. Ruo Pan, did the books say how to open the gates of hell? Yi Qing Luo gave up and turned her head to look at Ruo Pan. Ruo Pan pondered for a moment and said, according to her memory, it said that the gates of hell can only be opened by ghosts. We're finished. Aren't we going to die? Qiao Jin's expression changed drastically. Shut up. Bai Ming Lu rolled her eyes at Qiao Jin as she thought of her best friend, who was getting depressed because of him. Her heart was filled with unspeakable anger. Although Yan Xiao didn't show any extra emotions on the surface. The injuries on her, the poison, had all been cured. But Bai Ming Lu could tell. Yan Xiao Yi's heart was hurt. As for her, as the descendant of the divine doctor family, she could cure all kinds of complicated illnesses, but it could not cure the heart disease. Thinking of this, Bai Ming Lu's tone became more and more unfriendly. Don't talk so much. Don't disturb Ruo Pan. Once he finished speaking, he pushed Yangming away and moved closer to Rupin. Rupin, go on. Rupin looked at Qiao Jin awkwardly. Under Bai Ming Lulu's gaze, he continued. The books mentioned that people have 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls. After death, the 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls enter the gates of hell. Only the 3 insects in the human body, also known as the 3 corpses, will roam the human world. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up when she heard that. I understand now. The 3 worms were also known as Ju Kama, Bai, representing greed, anger, and obsession, respectively. In other words, as long as we don't have any desires or thoughts, we can pass through the gates of hell. Qiao Jin walked over. Let me try. With that, he closed his eyes and put his palms together like an old monk in meditation. After a while, he opened his eyes and walked toward the red door. His eyes were calm and unperturbed. Bang! It hit the door. Qiao Jin pinched his nose. It doesn't work. Devil Class's students. Rupin suddenly pointed to the 2 sides of the door as he cried out in surprise, Quick, look! There are words. Above the faint, green candle flame, the smoke curled up into the air and gradually converged into 2 lines of words. A line on the left and right. Chapter 1005. Qiao Jin's brows rose as his pupils reflected a green glow under the candlelight. He propped his chin as he stared at those 2 lines of words with interest. Interesting. What do you think? Should I buckle the left one or the right one? Or after the left one, buckle the right one? Or after the right one, buckle the left one, or both at the same time? The other 9 people looked at him as though they were looking at an idiot. Qiao Jin didn't understand what was going on as he rubbed the back of his head and was about to open his mouth. Shut up! Bai Ming Lu berated in a low voice as she stopped Qiao Jin. Yi Qing Luo walked to the door as she raised her slender hand to fiddle with that golden hoop. But when the golden hoop was in her hand, it was as heavy as 1,000 caddies and not easy to move. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as both her hands held onto the golden hoop. A burst of profound qi broke out from her body as she borrowed the power of her profound qi to lift the golden hoop. But unexpectedly, this lift, both sides of the golden hoop were lifted at the same time. Immediately following that, the golden hoop landed heavily on the big red door, only to hear a dang sound. as though the ancient temple's huge bell had been rung. It shook Yi Qing Luo's hands till they went numb. The dang sound reverberated in the entire space. When it ended, Yi Qing Luo's hands were still trembling, slightly. This knock on the door, although it didn't open that door, but it wasn't totally useless. At least, that group of people who had fallen into the illusion were jolted awake. Ah! The moment they regained consciousness, they gave out terrified cries from their mouths. Each of them were panting heavily, as though they had experienced immense pain. After they regained consciousness, they realized that they were still in the dark underground palace and had not experienced what they had imagined, so they all heaved a sigh of relief. Following that, they saw the 10 people standing not too far away from them. Shangguan Liuli was the first to change her expression. She wiped off the cold sweat on her forehead, as what she had experienced in the illusion made her extremely terrified. When she saw Yi Qing Luo and the others, it was as though she had seen an outlet to vent her anger. She dashed forward as she roared furiously, "Is it you guys? Did you guys intentionally bring us here to let us experience that kind of thing?" The other class's students all looked towards Yi Qing Luo and the others. When they discovered that Yi Qing Luo and the others were still in the same group, their expressions changed slightly. The trash of the devil class had actually passed the first round of assessment. Furthermore, he wasn't affected by the illusions like they were. How could this be? Unless they were affected by the illusion and it was Yi Qing Luo's doing. Thinking of this, the students from the other classes started to stare angrily at Yi Qing Luo, as though they wanted to settle scores with her. Yi Qing Luo withdrew her numb and trembling hands and placed them behind her back. Not far away, he glanced at the students from the various classes who were rushing over. Immediately, the corner of his mouth hooked up into a mocking sneer. "With this IQ of yours, how dare you claim to be students of the Heavenly Academy? What a disgrace to the Heavenly Academy!" Not only was Shangguan Liuli furious, but the other students were also furious. He was scolding all of them. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. "Are you not stupid? Think about it carefully. What kind of space are we in right now?" High-profound class students were the first to react. After Yi Qing Luo's reminder, he immediately stared at Shangguan Liuli. They were all criticizing this meddlesome woman. Chapter 1006. They were now in the Heavenly Academy's Heavenly Pagoda. The space here was created by the elders and the 4 masters of the pagoda. Everything that happened here was controlled by the 4 great masters. No matter how capable Yi Qing Luo was, she couldn't possibly do anything to them in the Heavenly Pagoda, which meant the illusion that they had experienced earlier was a test of their abilities. They were trapped in the illusion and couldn't get out. It was Yi Qing Luo who woke them up. Shangguan Li's brain naturally couldn't understand this matter. Hearing the high profound class's reprimand, her face turned gloomy. "When did I deliberately provoke you? I'm telling the truth. We were all trapped in the illusion, only they weren't." Lu Li, shut up. In the high profound class too, Shangguan Fong walked out and berated Shangguan Li, "Third brother." Shangguan Li's eyes widened. "You're still speaking up for that slut? Don't you know that she was the one who hurt you a few days ago?" Shangguan Fong Yi's face sunk as he felt helpless towards his sister's blabbermouth. He walked over and covered Shangguan Li's mouth. "Be quiet. Don't let the other students see the Shangguan family as a joke." Shangguan Li struggled, although she was angry, but at least she kept her mouth shut. Intermediate Profound Class 2's monitor, Xie slowly walked towards Yi Qing Luo. "Student Yi, I didn't expect to meet you in the second round." Meeting Yi Qing Luo wasn't strange at all. What was strange was that the other 9 people in Devil Class were all standing there safe and sound. Xie Yan narrowed his eyes and suddenly understood why Yi Fengru asked him to find an opportunity to ask Yi Qing Luo to take part in the interclass competition. This Yi Qing Luo, but a mysterious existence that couldn't be seen through. There were too many surprises hidden on her, too many miracles. Such a mysterious and powerful existence was willing to stay in the devil class, which was known as waste class. If it wasn't for the attraction of the devil class, why would Yi Qing Luo refuse to enter the class of gods and stubbornly stay in the devil class? Wherever Yi Qing Luo was, he believed that everything would be extraordinary. These people from devil class, I'm afraid, they are not ordinary. There are many unexpected things. Class monitor Xie, let's wait and see. Yi Qing Luo calmly met his gaze. Xie Yan smiled meaningfully and returned to his seat in Intermediate Profound Class 2. Xie Yan's prestige in the academy was also quite high. Seeing Xie Yan and Yi Qing Luo being so courteous, the other students naturally kept quiet. At the end of the High-Profound class, Lu Shuiyu and Lu Shuilan were wiping the sweat on their foreheads with eyes full of doubt. Why Yi Qing Luo and the others weren't affected by the mirage? Both classes from the High-Profound class were sucked into this space. In an instant, he was caught in an illusion and did not even have the chance to resist. What was going on? Looking at these students' expressions, Yi Qing Luo and the others linked it to the explanation from the gates of hell and roughly understood the reason. If he wanted to enter the gates of hell, he had to remove the 3 corpses. The second test was to test the capricious greed, anger, and infatuation. Because of this, after these students entered the second round, they were caught in the 3 corpses mirage test. As for them, it was possible that compared to the other students, the greed, anger, and infatuation in their hearts weren't as strong. Because of this, they were able to walk to the gates of hell safely. Chapter 1007. Now is not the time to discuss other things. Let's think of a way to leave this place. Lu Xiaoyu's voice was heard from the crowd. This place is too eerie. Perhaps we might be corroded by the illusion again. Mentioning the illusion, everyone's heart trembled. The feeling in the illusion earlier was still lingering in their hearts. It made them have a lingering fear. The students who were at loggerheads immediately quietened down. The sharp-eyed students discovered that there was a red wooden door behind Yi Qing Luo and the rest. After giving a loud cry, they took the lead and ran towards the direction of the gates of hell. When the other students heard that, they naturally didn't want to be left behind. Totally disregarding the strange candle flame on the red wooden door, they only wanted to be the first to pass this round and be the first to get first place. Lu Xiaoyu still wanted to talk to Yi Qing Luo, but was forcefully dragged by her classmates as they ran towards the gates of hell. Yi Qing Luo and the rest shifted their position and didn't stop them, allowing them to rush towards the gates of hell. In just a short while, thousands of students had crowded the entire red wooden door. Yi Qing Luo and the rest were all squeezed to a corner. The student who rushed at the front stretched out his hand and grabbed the golden hoop as he pulled it hard, only to hear a creak sound. The huge red wooden door slowly opened. What? Just based on them, they can open the gates of hell? Qiao Jin stared in disbelief at the gates of hell, which was slowly opening, revealing a glaring white light. He rubbed his eyes fiercely and secretly lifted the black veil on his face to take a look at that door. It had indeed been opened. The one who couldn't calm down the most was Yi Qing Luo. Wasn't it said that only those who had no desires could open the gates of hell? Her hands were still trembling from the shock of the golden hoop. That intermediate profound class student easily opened it. If that student who opened the gates of hell really had no desires, then he wouldn't be the first to rush to the front. She might have just opened a fake gates of hell. After the gates of hell were opened, numerous students were cheering, just as they were about to rush forward. But they saw a strong glaring white light shooting out from the open door. In a split second, it swallowed the first row of students. In a split second, it swallowed the entire student. Those cheering students' voices came to an abrupt halt. They watched in horror as the white light engulfed the students in front of them. After being covered by the white light, the person disappeared from the space. This was not the white light to enter the next checkpoint or to leave the upper, profound pagoda. Instead, it was a kind of man-eating light. The students immediately turned around. How fast had he rushed to the gates of hell? How fast could he run back now? However, even if they condensed their chi into their legs and sped up their escape, they would not be able to escape. However, he was still no match for the speed of the white light. Even for Yi Qing Luo, she hadn't even noticed it in time when she was enveloped by a stretch of white light. Outside the heavenly pagoda, a teacher was standing outside the pagoda, using his chi to amplify his voice as he explained what had happened inside the pagoda. Dmo Xian narrowed his long and narrow peach blossom eyes as he gazed deeply at the heavenly pagoda. When he heard about the devil class, the 10 students broke through the illusion of greed in the first round and successfully reached the second round. His eyes flashed. Then he heard the teacher say that all the students had been swallowed into the gates of hell. His brows furrowed slightly. Chapter 1008. Following that, the director pointed to the medical hall's doctors who were carrying the eliminated students away. These students only suffered from mental trauma. After resting for a day in the medical hall, they will be back to normal. Dmo Xian's brows rose slightly. His deep gaze was like a whirlpool as he looked straight at the director. That gaze sent a chill down the director's spine. But he saw Dmo Xian's lips curled up slightly as he gave an elegant smile. Why did director want to conduct a class ability assessment? And it seems to be testing the student souls if they are clean. The 2-word soul made the director's white brows twitch, although his face did not reveal any emotions. But Dmo Xian's sharp senses could sense that the director already had a kind of flustered from having his thoughts poked out. The director laughed dryly, because this time Devil Class's students will be taking part. Supreme Mo teaches Devil Class, so he should understand Devil Class's aptitude. I suggested the ability assessment is also for Devil Class's sake. Facing the evaluators from the main courtyard. If the director wanted to obtain the Best Academy title, then he had to curry favor with Supreme Mo. He placed himself in the position of a good director who was wholeheartedly thinking for the students. This teacher indeed understands Devil Class's students' aptitude. Who else knew Devil Class's students' aptitude better than him? It's precisely because of Devil Class's students' aptitude and student Yi Qing Luo. In order to fight for her face, she had to drag Devil Class's students to take part in the interclass competition. As the director spoke, he sighed helplessly. In the interclass competition, although it's only a matter of time, but after all, swords have no eyes. In order to fight for a good ranking, these students will definitely give it their all. I'm afraid it will hurt Devil Class's students. Because of this, I followed the elder's suggestion to conduct an ability assessment. If Devil Class is able to pass the assessment, then I can rest assured. At least in the interclass competition, Devil Class's students will not get into any big trouble. And if they don't pass the assessment, then that means my previous concerns are correct. Dmo Xian gently curled up his lips, indifferent as snow, elegant as the wind. I see I've troubled the director. It's the students' blessing to have such a considerate principal in the Heavenly Academy. Ha! Ha! The dean secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. Since I'm in this position, I must make an equal contribution. As long as the students can achieve something, even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames, I'll do it. Dmo Xian's serene eyes narrowed slightly, and his elegant smile revealed some incisiveness. However, upon closer inspection, there was only a bottomless whirlpool. After the white light was swallowed, what was left in front of Yi Qing Luo was a dusky scene. The surroundings were quiet. The thousands of students had already disappeared without a trace. Even Long Yunzhan and the others didn't hear any signs of them. She was the only one in the entire space. Yi Qing Luo looked around for a moment. Soon he understood. After the gates of hell opened, the white light sucked each of them into an independent space. She was the only one in this space. As he was looking around, the white light around him suddenly dissipated. A 15-story pagoda appeared in front of them. A familiar figure appeared in front of her. Chapter 1009. Old Man Tsang raised his illusory palm and rubbed her head. Lass, you have to do your best in the 15th floor of the Purgatory Tower. Once you succeed, you will obtain all the secret arts of the 15th floor. It will definitely allow you to reach the peak of the strong. No one can compare to you. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. She hadn't had the time to attempt the 2nd floor. Why was it the 15th floor? Before she could think carefully, she was pushed by Old Man Tsang towards the Purgatory Tower. Lass, go ahead, I can't wait to see you stand at the peak. Yi Qing Luo abruptly halted her footsteps, feeling that something was wrong. But just as she was about to think carefully, her brain felt a throbbing pain. It was as if something was forcing her, preventing her from thinking deeply about other things. What are you still hesitating for? As long as you break through the 15th floor, not to mention DMO Xian, even in the upper realm, you will be unimpeded. Old Man Tsang advised earnestly as he pushed her forward. DMO Xian, these 3 words made Yi Qing Luo's brain suddenly clear up. Her eyes lit up and directly stretched out her hand, pressing on the hand on her shoulder. It was extremely cold to the touch. It made Yi Qing Luo's mind become clearer. She lowered her voice with some coldness. Old Man Tsang, if I force my way through the 15th floor, will I be completely engulfed by it? How could that be? Old Man Tsang immediately shook his head. Why would I lie to you? With your strength, you can totally pass through the 15th floor of the Purgatory Tower. As long as you pass, what awaits you is the peak and heaven-defying power. Yi Qing Luo increased the strength of her 5 fingers. She directly cut off Old Man Tsang's wrist, and immediately the glower flame fan in her hand had already slid towards his neck. Who are you? Yi Qing Luo stared coldly at this person who looked extremely similar to Old Man Tsang. He was not Old Man Tsang. Absolutely not. Old Man Tsang would never say such certain words. Everything he does, he will only stand in my position and think for my sake. He will not bear to let any accidents happen to me. Yi Qing Luo stared indifferently at the slightly pale face of Old Man Tsang. If you don't speak, this glower flame fan in my hand will not have eyes. Old Man Tsang sneered. That face of Old Man Tsang gradually transformed into another Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo, who looked exactly the same as her. You! Yi Qing Luo had yet to finish her words. That Yi Qing Luo, who looked exactly the same as her, gave an enchanting smile. In my heart, the most greedy and persistent thing is to become the strong, to step onto the peak of the strong, to have enough qualifications to stand by Xian's side, to let everyone acknowledge the relationship between us. Just as she finished her words, Yi Qing Luo's figure gradually turned into ashes under the hazy white light. What was going on? What did that Old Man Tsang and herself mean? Why did he say what she was obsessed with so clearly? Before she could think clearly, the white light in front of him dissipated again, and the scene in front of him turned into a joyous wedding hall. Chao Jin and the rest stood behind her. Seeing Yi Qing Luo in a daze, he laughed. Qing Luo, don't put on a bitter face. Today is your master's big day. If your master sees your expression, he will blame you. Yi Qing Luo was stunned, master. Qing Luo, are you feeling unwell? Yen Xiao worriedly held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Her slender fingers wiped the cold sweat on her forehead. Yi Qing Luo was enlightened. Coincidentally, she heard a joyous shout from the door. The newlyweds have entered the hall. The newlyweds have entered the hall. Congratulations, newlyweds! Congratulations, newlyweds! Following that, she saw 2 figures dressed in red wedding robes walking into the hall.